You better run from devil.
Your roots, your home, your story. They define who you are, the man you will become, and how far you're willing to go to realise your dream.
Young boy, trying to rule the world, I see. Well, young boy, I can give you everything, but first you gotta listen to me. I know the twists and turns to make your life worth.
The work has been done. Today is your day. Tomorrow, you will find a new home. Tonight, you are the headline act. This is your time to shine.
You better run from devil.
Are you with me? Are you with me?
The picturesque scenery along the banks of the River Torrens in the city of Churches. What a backdrop it provides. Good evening and welcome one and all to the Adelaide Convention Centre for the 2015 NAB AFL Draft. You can just picture lounge rooms right across the country with families and friends crowded around TVs, just hoping for a certain name to be called out and then wondering where that potential draftee may in fact be headed. And what a night it is for the 18 clubs in the AFL as well, trying to rebuild or strengthen their playing lists. We've got the Carlton Football Club with 4 selections inside the top 20. And a couple of teams in Essendon and Melbourne that both have 2 selections inside the top 10. We shouldn't forget either the father, son and academy selections with a new bidding system that we will take you through very, very shortly. And of course you have options as you watch the coverage. We'll be going through round 1 here on 504. Then a lot of interviews, a lot of colour, a lot of debate about the draft. But if you want to watch each and every single selection as it happens, you can flick over to channel 503. And of course, as always, you can catch everything as it unfolds online at foxfooty.com.au. A wonderful panel assembled to take us through the events of this evening. We kick off with the man that was selected at number 11 in the 1993 draft. He's the game's record holder for the Western Bulldogs, an absolute star and one hell of a good bloke. Brad Johnson, good evening to you, Jono.
It's very kind, Jason. It's great to be. It's an exciting time for everyone, the players, all their families, but they've done so well to get to this point right now. Their name may be called out tonight, but then it all starts again. They have to find their feet very quickly in this ruthless AFL competition.
Alongside Brad Johnson, a man that was coach of the Adelaide Crows, now is the AFL Academy head coach, Brenton Sanderson. Good evening, Sando.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. And you're right, Jono. The anticipation, the anxiety that surrounds draft night, all these young men that are here tonight, but I guess the thousands back around lounge rooms around Australia tonight, just hoping, wishing that their name is going to get called out.
And let's face it, no draft is complete without the AFL's national and international talent manager in Kevin Sheehan, a man affectionately known as Shifter. Shifter, great to have you on board tonight, mate.
And it's great to be here. So Adelaide is draft town, just the second time in the 30 years of the draft that we've come here. And just to go back to 97, the one year it was here, 1997, Adelaide Premiership, the Crows, of course, Travis Johnson taken number 1. But then listen to some of these names. Brad Otten's at number 2, Luke Power at 7, Chad Corns to put Adelaide at choice 9, Simon Black at 31, and then we'll throw in Adam Goods at 43 and Matthew Scarlett at 45. So big names of the game will appear from those selected tonight.
They certainly will, and I think it's fair to say also that from the moment the first conversations began about this year's draft, I think 2 names stuck out. They were Jacob Wiedering and Josh Shackey.
Yeah, well, and you can see why, because they're just towering young men, and they've developed so well, especially over the course of this season. You see there, Wiedering 195 compared to Shaq 199, 90 kilos to 96, defender and a key position forward. And normally we're talking about midfielders at this, in the early part of the draft. We're talking about the key shifter this time around.
Yeah, you see Wiedering in action here. Think Harry Taylor, just so composed down back, massive hands, so he gathers the ball overhead very, very well. great intercept mark, a great distributor as well, uses it beautifully to set up the play, terrific athlete. And then Josh Shackey, of course, the star of the National Championships. He kicked 24 goals in the 6 games, 8 against WA, and at 199 centimetres, every club would love him.
The sort of players you can build a team around. When you talk X Factor, I think one of the most famous names in the game comes to mind. It was Nakia Cockatoo, the bolter, last year. Could it be Daniel Rioli this year?
Well, it could be, Sando, definitely. What Nakia did last year was just brilliant. The game at the MCG, then his draft combine. Daniel Rioli's done a similar thing.
Yeah, and it was a game in the championships, this one here, Jono, when Northern Territory played Tasmania at Etihad Stadium, that Rioli just lit up. He had a fantastic game. He's a little bit like his cousin. He's explosive. He's great inside the contest. He spreads outside. But then grand final day, this was the game before the grand final. This was the All-Stars match, and he was fantastic. Had more than 20 possessions, ran up hard through the midfield, and he's really exciting in front of goal.
Now, as I mentioned before, there's a brand new bidding system for father-son and academy selections, and it can be confusing if you don't know what we're talking about. So to step us through it, listen carefully. I need to listen as well. This is Anthony Hudson and Brad Johnson.
Thanks, Jace. Well, this year's draft day is finally here, Jono, and the unveiling of the brand new bidding system for father-son players and also the youngsters coming through in the northern states from the academies.
Yeah, the best way is to show an example, Hutto. So let's focus on the Brisbane Lions. They've got 2 academy selections they'd like to pick up in this year's national draft in Eric Hipwood and Ben Keys. As you can see, they'll start with selection 2 in the national draft. They've got a stockpile from 38 through to 42 because each pick has got a points value to it. Pick 1 this year is worth 3,000 points, down to pick 73, which is 9 points. After that, it's worth 0. So Brisbane have stockpiled because they're going to need these points to select their players.
So they worked out the system and they traded, as you said, vigorously through the trade system to have those points allocated. First, though, as you said, their selection 2, as normal, no doubt will go to Josh Shackey.
Yeah, that's right. And what a replacement for Jonathan Brown he'll be. A big power forward, an accurate kick at goal.
Yeah, well, he's going to be a talented player, but they've also identified their 2 young players coming through their academy that they really want to get. As you said earlier, Eric Hipwood is the first one. So how do they do that? Well, it depends on how the other clubs rate him. In our example, Hawthorn, let's say they bid for him at pick 15.
And pick 15 is worth 1,112 points. Because Brisbane have put the work in, they get a 20% discount, drops it to 889.6 points.
So here we go with the numbers. What Brisbane have to do is use the picks that they've accumulated and try and raise that 1,112 points, which has been discounted for them, down to 889. So pick 38 they use, that's worth 465 points. Obviously, it doesn't get the job done, but it goes a fair way. When you add pick 39, bang, they've got over the mark, 446 points and a credit of 21.4. And those little points, the 21.4, get allocated their own pick in the early 70s.
Goes back to the back end of the draft. So pick 39 drops out to pick 72 in the national draft.
So that's the situation after they've picked up Eric Hipwood. But of course, Brisbane aren't finished at that stage. They think, right, we've got to get our next young player through, and that's Ben Keys. Where do you reckon he might go?
Probably a second round. So we've used the Western Bulldogs pick at 21. They may bid on Ben Keys, who's a inside midfielder. Brisbane now have to match that pick 21. The value of pick 21 is 878. The set allocation discount is 197 points. So take that off. 681 points is what they need to come up with.
Yeah, again, it's a very similar situation. As you said, 681 points is what they need to get Ben Keys. So they use their pick 40, 429 points. Falls short, but that's not a problem because they've got pick 41 as well, 412 points. And this time the credit is a more healthy 160 points, and that's also allocated as a pick, and in this case, it's pick 59.
Yeah, that's right. So Brisbane have done really well here when you have a close look at it, because pick 2 they get Josh Shackey, which is a brilliant selection. Hipwood and Keys with 15 and 20. And then they've also got pick 42, which is still sitting there. That may come into play if a club bids on Eric Hipwood before pick 15. At the moment, if it doesn't, it sits there, they'll use that selection. Then they lose 38, they lose 40. 39 goes back to 72 and 41 to 59.
So all in all, Brisbane get the young player in Shackey and their 2 players from the academy, and it's job done. It's a pretty simple system, Jason. Did you get all that?
Hopefully that sheds a bit of light on things for you, and we are expecting a little bit of bidding very, very early on in this year's draft. And whenever there's a new system in place, Shifter, the clubs are very good at testing it. But the AFL's integrity will not be tested on this matter. There's no backroom deals, no colluding over who's not going to bid and do those sorts of things, are they?
And that's the key word, colluding. So the AFL's made it clear, do not collude on not to choose a player. Pick him at the level you think he's good enough to be picked at, or they'll take severe action.
Well, we're going to take a quick break, but as we do, we think about a couple of players who have AFL in the blood. And let's face it, after all, if it runs in the family, you're going to be right in the mix.
A real football crowd. 98,000 at Melbourne Cricket Ground.
Yeah, my granddad was Murray Wiedemann. He's captain of the 1958 Premiership.
And the Magpies have done it. Sign of delirious excitement. Murray Wiedemann, the captain, being cheered off the ground.
They sort of give me a lot of insight into what's expected and how they went about things. So, yeah, it definitely helps having them around.
Pulls the kick. That behind post.
Dad played 217 games for the Sydney Swans.
And he does not blink an eyelid.
Just can remember sort of stealing lollies off the trainers and singing the last song, running out in Dad's last game.
Kuno, well done, really well done.
My brother's Ed Curto and plays for Carlton.
That's a win for the Blues.
He gives some pretty good advice here and there, but you have to be a smart ass around the clubs and things like that, and you know, don't talk too much, listen to what people tell you.
Archie might have to go here. Big leap and he plucks it.
Yeah, my brother gives me a fair bit of advice, basically just saying that it's hard and you know, you need to be switched on and motivated to do the things in order to, you know, play games and succeed.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing to have like someone that's been there and done it before, sort of had a good influence on me.
My name's Harry Mackay, centre forward.
My name's Ben Mackay, key position.
It's got its ups and downs. You probably get noticed a little bit more being a twin, but you know, he's a little bit annoying here and there, but yeah, he's all right. Wouldn't say it's special playing alongside each other, but it's not too bad. He's an all right player, so yeah, it's not too bad.
Kick comes in high. Mackay stood well, had the height, had the strength.
Yeah, I do enjoy playing with Harry. Yeah, it's always good fun. Bumping other blokes around the goal square is always a bit of a laugh, so yeah, it's all good, yeah.
Yeah, I've always had to look after him a little bit. He always goes sledging and starts fights and I have to kind of look after him, but it's all right.
I reckon it's really exciting, having the potential to play on each other. You know, finally get to show people that I'm better than him, so and touch him up again. So yeah,
I think it's safe to say there'll be a bit of banter out there and a few punches, sneaky punches thrown, but yeah, something I'm looking forward to, I reckon.
Yeah, if we were to get drafted, obviously.
Another set of twins set to enter the AFL, and Ben and Harry Mackay both expected to go in the top 20-25 shifter.
I think about that, Mark. And Harry's the left footer, and Ben's the right one, right footer that can play both ends of the ground. Harry played for the country during the year, and then Ben emerged out at Gippsland Power.
All right, if you're wondering which picks your club has got, well, we're going to take you through each and every one of them. Don't be alarmed, you've got to have at least 3 selections, but not all of these picks are going to be used. In fact, some have been stockpiled for points in the bidding system.
You can see that through GWS and what they've been able to do. The Brisbane Lions have got a few there as well, 38 through to 41, and Carlton have got a few important selections, pick 1, 8 and 11, Sando.
Yeah, they have. They've got 4 picks inside 19, and I guess the other focus will be Essendon early in this draft too, with 4 picks inside 25. Picks 4 and 5, critical this year for the Bombers.
We've spoken a little bit about the academy kids and the bidding system and all that, but there's a couple of academy kids that you're pretty keen on that'll probably go reasonably early too, Sando.
Yeah, these are young men that I had the pleasure of coaching earlier in the season. So these were young men that were in the National Academy. So they've represented their academy, and one of them is Eric Hipwood. Now he's expected to be the first Queenslander taken in this year's draft. He's 200 centimetres, 82 kilograms. He's still very lightly framed, but he's going to mature into a really promising centre-half forward, centre-half back. He has got that versatility, beautiful set shot for goal, left footer. He was an All-Australian this year in the championships. He's a Brisbane Lions Academy player, so that's where we're going to see probably one of the first examples tonight of the bidding process. A club might bid for him, and then the Brisbane Lions are going to have to match it. But I really like this kid. He's going to complement what the Brisbane Lions have already got in Harris Andrews up there, and we can see here his ability to kick a goal, but also he can swing and go back into defence.
That's what I like about a 200 centimetre, but his first 5 steps off the mark are actually quite quick, and he actually does get away from a defender or someone, an opposition player coming hard at him.
Super fit too, John. Gets up and down the ground, works really hard between the arcs. Going to be a really important player in Brisbane's future.
Sometimes you can just see their great potential in a moment, and he was switched to forward in the Nationals, kicked 4 in about 20 minutes, and that was his moment where he really arrived in our minds.
So we like the goal kickers shifter, we know that.
The other one, Jason, I like, and this is a really exciting talent from Western Australia. This is Calamachi from South Fremantle. He played a lot of senior football in the back half of the year for South Fremantle, but he was really important for us earlier in the season in the National Academy program. He's an elusive half forward, really good decision maker, fantastic overhead too. We'll see in a minute he takes one of the marks of the year across any grade of football, but I expect him to go early in this draft. He should be a top 10 talent, but a player that we potentially haven't heard that much about so far.
And that's the advantage too, getting to play some senior waffle football, and the guys in South Australia that play consistent senior sample football throughout the year normally come in and they're ready to go from day one.
Yeah, spot on, John, and I love the character of this young man as well. He's going to fit right into an AFL program straight away.
Well, we'll hear from a number of the draftees throughout the course of the evening, also their parents and other key players within the draft system. The man that's going to bring us all of that colour, he was picked number 77 back in 1994. Some good judges at Hawthorn will tell you he's a sleeper. Others at the Hawks will tell you he never woke up. But Ben Dixon is with us tonight. How are you, Dicko?
Oh, that's an awesome intro, Jay. So I'm here with pick 5 in 2001, Xavier Clark. Now, from the playing ranks, Xavier moved into the NT Thunder coaching. How are you enjoying that experience?
Yeah, look, it's been good, Dicko. It's a bit different, obviously, from playing the game, but you're on the other side of the fence and things are out of your control. But yeah, we had a successful year. We won the NEFL Premiership, which was really good, and hopefully we get a couple of boys taken today.
A couple of your boys we're talking about, the X Factor, Daniel Rioli, had an outstanding carnival. But tell us what he's like as a player off the field and on the field, the way you see him as a coach.
Yeah, look, Daniel's obviously played a year at the Rebels this year and had a fantastic year there, and played a great year had a great nationals where I think he sort of jumped into the spotlight and then went to the Allies game and really dominated then. And so look, he's a great kid. He comes obviously from a great family. You know, he's been living away from home for a bit of a period of time now, and we just hope that he gets to a club where he can excel and become a really good player.
We like to compare and see what the like are like. Well, Cyril Rioli, no pressure on him. He's won 4 premierships, but plays a very similar style, doesn't he?
Yeah, he has that X factor, and like I said, I think the last 12 to 6 months for Daniel's been a big stepping stone for him in his footy. And look, today is an exciting time for him, and like I said, hopefully he gets to a club and excels and be as good as Cyril. If he can take one of those premierships or be half as good as him, I think it'll be a big pickup for any club.
His draft experience in terms of the combine, he was just outstanding, repeat speed, everything. It ticked all the boxes in terms of it. We're expecting him to go top 10, just outside. Where do you think he'll go?
Yeah, it's interesting to say. I hope he does go early, but I think he'll be pretty excited to get wherever he can. And like you said, his combine testing, I think he was the best tester overall at combine in all areas. So he's got a great package, but I'm sure he's a good kid with a great personality. Obviously, like I said, he comes from a great family. He's been in good programs over the last few years, and he'll do well wherever he goes.
Thanks for your time, Zave. And he's telling me off air, Jason, that he's got a couple of blokes late in the draft. They might be sleepers, but hopefully their club wakes them up in time to play a bit of footy.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, you can watch every selection in the draft from the first pick to the last on Channel 503. That's where you'll be kept company by a very familiar face in Sarah Jones, and also the AFL's National Talent Football Manager in Michael Ablett. We welcome them for the first time this evening. Good evening, Sarah and Mick.
Thank you very much, Jace. Well, every year there's a handful of players that make a late charge to draft day. Mick, who are the bolters in the pack tonight?
Yeah, a couple of Vic Country boys, Sarah. I really like Clayton Oliver, and when you talk bolters, this kid's it in a nutshell. He's a 17-year-old. He couldn't get a game with the Bendigo Pioneers. Relocated residence into the Murray Bushranger zone, and 12 months later, he's a Morris medalist and potential top 10 draftee. Kieran Collins, another Vic Country boy as well. He's outstanding. I know 18 months ago, I guess there was a bit of concern in his lateral movement. His kicking wasn't fantastic, and then in the last 12 months he's played on every power forward there is in the country, won 99% of those battles, and he's another one that finds himself now in the first round of the AFL Draft.
Well, Jace, as you said, Mick and I will have all the draft selections as they unfold over on 503.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Now, Jono, how nervous were you back in 1993 when you're waiting to get drafted?
I think I was more nervous about the shirt I was wearing looking back, Judge, to be honest. But no, very nervous, of course. I was invited to the draft, didn't want to come along because you speak to clubs, but it is the unknown. You live in the unknown of where you might go if you'll get selected at all. And I was lucky enough to go 20 minutes down the road where some guys can go the other side of the country. So it is a big challenge and very nerve-wracking.
And not just nerve-wracking for the players either. Spare a thought for the families that have to go through this with them, not knowing where a son or or a brother might end up. This is the family of Brandon White in Berwick in Victoria. Getting some great footage here. We're going to see a little bit of emotion at some stage of the evening, we hope. Hopefully not too deep in the draft.
Yeah, hard to see his draft position. He's a boy that played very well for Vic Country in their winning championship side. A left footer, plays down in defence, plays very tight, and at 189 he's versatile. He can push up the ground as well. So he looks a draftee for mine, but we can't quite pin which club.
Need to take a break. As we go to the break, we're going to have a look at a couple of very, very close friends, but in the very short-term future, they might be playing for opposition clubs and not so friendly.
Ball goes over the back. Matheson first to it, clean below the knees.
Great mates with Reece Matheson. Just grown up ever since playing footy together.
I've moved schools in year 8 to be with him and play footy, so yeah, you know what you're going to get from Darcy each week.
Just love what he brings out on the field. You know, you're going to get that 110% effort every time we cross that line, and yeah, he's a different sort of character, but yeah, always laughing with him and whatnot. So yeah, he's great to be around.
Again, Matheson, good vision from him.
He's a very skillful player, and I'm sure he's going to go high in this year's draft. And I've loved playing my career with Das all the way up to this point, so I'd love to go to the same club as him, but if that doesn't happen, I'll have to find a new Das.
At the end of the day, you better run in some type of direction, because the people going nowhere are the ones that are flexing. I'm not trying to be a preacher, I was never a reverend, but I can take your ass to church and show you glimpses of heaven. You better run in some type of direction, because the people going nowhere are the ones that are flexing. I'm not trying to be a preacher, I was never
It's a very imposing figure, that of Josh Shackey, a young man we expect to go very, very high in the draft. And the sort of player you can build a team around. A forward line's going to look very, very good with Josh Shackey in it. Well, we're just about ready to get underway. The man in charge of official proceedings once again tonight up on stage is Anthony Hudson. As we say good evening to you, Hutto, we've got a big night ahead of us.
We have, Jason. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Adelaide Convention Centre for the 2015 NAB AFL Draft. Well, this is such a special event on the AFL calendar, and what a night it is for the young men, the more than 1,500 hopefuls who are hoping to move their way further along the NAB Rising Star pathway and fulfil their dreams of becoming AFL footballers. To begin official proceedings, I'd like to welcome the Chief Executive Officer of the AFL, Mr. Gillon McLaughlin.
Good evening and welcome to the 30th NAB AFL Draft here at the Adelaide Convention Centre. And welcome to our thousands of fans, whether they be in the room tonight, watching live on Fox Footy or streaming live on afl.com.au. And most importantly, welcome to our young draftees and their families and friends, some here in Adelaide, others watching nervously at home. Many of our fans know your names already. You're the hope that will get them through the summer till the footy starts again. I want to thank South Australian Premier Jay Weatherill for the support of his government, and personally welcome the Minister for Sport and Major Events, Leon Bignell, and also representatives from Events SA. I'd also like to acknowledge representatives of NAB, our partner in the NAB AFL Rising Stars program, which supports the grassroots and football communities and helps young Australians fulfil their dream of playing in the AFL. In particular, I want to welcome and thank the NAB's General Manager of Retail in South Australia and the Northern Territory, Greg Harris. And a welcome to all of our clubs. There are 18 fierce rivals in the adjoining selection room here tonight. And for your recruiting teams, this is your grand final. Don't muck it up. As this is the AFL's first official meeting since the Toyota AFL Grand Final, I want to congratulate Hawthorn on becoming just the 5th team in history to win 3 consecutive premierships. It's a remarkable achievement. I would also like to welcome our new senior coaches, Brendan Bolton at Carlton, Don Pike at Adelaide, and John Worsfold Essendon. Tonight is the culmination of many years of hard work for the young footballers in the room. A journey that required hours on the road and in the air. Training sessions, matches and combining school with the allure of chasing the AFL dream. But if you're successful tonight, it is also the beginning. Your football career might continue at a club on the other side of the country, and your new teammates may well be Nat Fyfe or Bob Murphy, Gary Ablett or Nick Rewell. Now I need to outline a few details about tonight's draft. The format of the draft has changed this year, with all clubs having a separate selection room. Anthony Hudson will call out the draft selection number and the name of the club according to the draft order. Each club will electronically submit their selection for approval to the AFL administration representative located in the club selection room. Once approved, pick is in will be displayed on the main stage screen behind me and the selection will be announced. Each club will be permitted 2 minutes to make their selection, and if required, a further 2-minute extension will be granted. This year's draft is significantly different to previous years after the introduction of the new father-son and academy bidding process. If during the draft, a club bids for a nominated father-son or academy player, the bid can be matched by the nominating club. The nominating club does not have to match the bid, and if this occurs, the player is selected by the club which has made the original bid. In the case of a matching father-son and academy bid, each club will be permitted 2 minutes to make their selection, and if required, 2 further extensions will be granted. 14 players have been promoted from the rookie list, and these players will not be read out tonight. All clubs must make a minimum of 3 selections at the draft, which can include a promoted rookie. A club is not required to use a pick gained during the NAB AFL trade period. But once a club passes on a selection, that club is excluded from further involvement in the draft meeting. Finally, good luck to the fans and the clubs, but most of all, good luck to our draftees. We look forward to welcoming you to the AFL. It's now over for Anthony Hudson to commence the 2015 NAB AFL Draft.
Thank you, Gil. So just before we get underway, let's get the final thoughts of these youngsters whose lives are about to change.
You want to compete as teams, you compete as a team. Then you want to die, you die as individuals.
Yeah, probably a motto that I've sort of been told over the years is if it's meant to be, it's up to me.
He's going to fly for this one.
Here he goes. That's what we can do.
Definitely excited about playing AFL footy. Can't wait for it. Let's see if I get my chance.
I love playing footy, just the competitiveness of the sport and get to play with mates, and I believe it's the best sport in the world.
The thing I love about AFL is just the love of the game, and also playing with mates, and I just love to compete and love to win.
Over the back, it's a chance, it's a goal to Crooker.
Competitiveness, I'm very passionate about the game.
Fantastic work from Ben Keane.
Just love taking the field and giving 100%, I guess. Yeah, I just love football in general.
Loved it since I was a kid, and just, like getting out there each week and having a run around.
The toughest part about lead up to the draft is definitely the wait. You just want to get in there and get going.
You just want to get it over with and see where you're going and see what's going to be your life for the next 2 years. So yeah, probably just the waiting around.
Toughest lead up to the draft, I guess, is just to talk about being like top 10 or whatever. But just sort of try and avoid all that and just hopefully it'll come true in the end.
Best thing is just to block it out and just pretend that really there's no difference between you and the other kids that go in the draft.
Withering does it again.
That's an unbelievable. There's that kick.
At the end of the day, whether you pick 1 or you pick 60, you're on an AFL list and you've accomplished that part of your dream, and it's all about just working towards getting your first AFL game and obviously going from there.
What a night it is for these young men. Who will be chosen and where will they go? The waiting is over, so let's get underway. And with the first selection of the 2015 NAB AFL Draft, it's the Carlton Football Club.
And so we are officially underway. Brendan Bolton, the new coach of the Carlton Football Club, charged with rebuilding that list alongside favourite son Steve Silvani. And you wouldn't think it'd take too long to lock in selection number one. They've had a bit of time to think about it.
No, you wouldn't think they'd need their 2 minutes here, Jason. They've had a lot of time to prepare for this moment.
Just going through the final formalities. You can see Andrew McKay there, the footy manager at the Carlton Football Club, alongside some of the key recruiting figures. And now I think Brendan Bolton is ready with pick number one of the 2015 NAB AFL Draft.
Jacob Wiedering, Dandenong Stingrays, Mount Martha Junior Football Club.
The young man has the whole package. He's a tall, athletic defender, reads the play very well, an excellent penetrating kick, elite endurance, recording a 15.5 beep test at the draft combine. He's also an outstanding leader. He was recognised by his peers in the AFL Academy, winning the Ben Mitchell Medal. His under-18 carnival also saw him earn All-Australian honours. His key attribute is his intercept marking, great hands. He loves to fly across packs, come over the top of his opponent. With the ball in hand, he is also very good by foot and an excellent decision maker. With his talent to win one-on-one, his ability to read the play, run off his man to create, expect him to develop into a similar player to Alex Rance at the Tigers. Carlton fans, look out. He'll have an impact in 2016.
Ladies and gentlemen, here he is, the number one draft pick, Jacob Wiedering, now with the Blues. Once again, we are delighted to have with us tonight the AFL Draft's major sponsor in NAB, and Greg Harris, the General Manager of Retail South Australian and Northern Territory, is with us. NAB have been footifying Australia since 2002, and Greg is about to present an investment portfolio worth $10,000 to Jacob, the number one draft pick. Congratulations. The wait is over, mate. You are officially now the number one draft pick and a Carlton player.
Yeah, that's it. It's an amazing opportunity I've just been given, and I can't thank everyone that's helped me over the journey, especially my family and my friends, both sitting at home watching and obviously here tonight. Thank you so much for all you've done, all my coaches, obviously the AFL as well, and the Carlton Football Club for selecting me at pick number one.
Pretty excited?
Oh, very excited. I can't wait to get underway. So,
what are your expectations for next year for yourself and for the team, I suppose?
Oh, look, obviously we just got to, I can't worry about that now, I guess. I'm just going to enjoy the moment, celebrate it with friends and family, and I just look forward to the night unfolding, and hopefully, I guess, not just the football players I've played against and alongside this year, but the people that I've got to know over the journey achieve their AFL dream tonight as well.
Oh, well said, and congratulations, best of luck. Cheers again.
Thank you very much.
Jacob Wiedering, what an impressive young man he is. He is the number one draft pick for 2015, and he's off to the Blues. Time now for selection 2, and it is with the Brisbane Lions Football Club.
So the Carlton Football Club have kicked things off with an outstanding young man in Jacob Wiedering. Now it is the turn of the Brisbane Lions. You can see the key figures there. What are the discussions happening across the table at the moment?
You'd think this pick would be a bit of a no-brainer, Jason. You know, I assume that Brisbane would have predicted that Wiedering would go at number one. They would already have their number 2 player selected now, and you can see the pick is in. We're just waiting for the Brisbane coach to make his way now to call out that name.
And I think they are ready to go. Here's Justin Leppich.
Brisbane Lions select Josh Shackey, Murray Bushrangers, Seymour Junior Football Club.
best pure forward in this year's draft crop. He's a goal-kicking machine. He amassed a record 24-goal haul over this year's Under-18 National Carnival, included 34 goals as well, playing in 7 games at TAC Cup level. His outstanding 2015 saw him claim the Lark Medal, which is the Division 1 best and fairest at the Under-18 Championships. He was a Vic Country MVP and made the All-Australian team. An elite runner for his size, recorded a 14-1 on the beat test. With great game sense, he provides a good target on the lead, has good clean hands, and is an excellent set shot for goal. Will develop into a power forward similar to Tom Lynch at the Gold Coast Suns.
And there he is, Josh Shackey, now with the Brisbane Lions, and Justin Lepich. And we wish Josh and the Lions all the best in season 2016. Selection 3 is with the Melbourne Football Club.
And the Demons do have a couple of picks inside the top 10, and it wouldn't surprise Shifter if we saw the first bidding here, and in fact we are now. There is a bid pending, so one of the Academy boys is on the block here.
Yeah, reinforcing the Academy rules, the clubs can make the bids. Now the Swans will be given the chance to actually match that bid. They'll need to upgrade using points to match it. We have a look at what they'll lose here. Should they accept the bid on Callum Mills, they would lose 33, 36, 37 and 43, but they need to push up to take Callum Mills at choice 3. They'd gain 3, and the other selections then would slip back. You see the 58, 65, 66. But we think he's worth it.
You can see the D's on the left and the Swans on the right, just weighing up that equation there, and he's incredibly highly rated, Callum Mills, isn't he?
It's a nervous time now for Callum Mills. He has to sit there and wait to see whether Sydney actually do match the bid, but he's a quality midfielder. Obviously, the Melbourne Football Club have ranked him or rated him as the best midfielder in this year's draft. It's a fantastic honour, and now we see whether Sydney will match it.
It would appear that the bid has been matched, because we're about to hear from Sydney coach John Longmire.
Callum Mills, Academy nominee for the Sydney Swans North Shore Mosman Junior AFL Club.
He's excited. You can see the beaming smile there. He's a ready-made midfielder. He'll slot right in at AFL level from round 1 next year. You'd think he's got a rugby background, but he began his AFL journey with the Sydney Swans Academy at the age of 13. Breakout season last year, was awarded All-Australian honours as the bottom age player for New South Wales ACT. Injury hampered his year this year in 2015, but he continued to train and get his rehab right with the Sydney Swans senior side. A prolific ball winner with a focus, maturity and motivation well beyond his years. Strong, aggressive and tough around the contest. He's courageous and he's hell-bent on winning the ball at all costs. He's also a great overhead mark for his size. He'll make a headache for any defender when he pushes forward. And he's got great comparisons to the skipper of the Geelong Football Club in Joel Selwood.
And he's now a Sydney Swan, Callum Mills, everyone, joining John Longmire Harbourside. Once again, it's selection 4 is the Melbourne Football Club.
And I'm sure they probably expected the Sydney Swans to match the bid for Callum Mills. So they don't get Callum Mills, but they do get the next selection.
Yeah, it'll be interesting here, Jason, because they've gone with a midfielder as that bid. It's whether they stick with that same strategy and select another midfielder with this pick.
All right, looks like the coach of the Melbourne Football Club is ready. Here's Paul Roos.
Clayton Oliver, Murray Bushrangers, Marupna Junior Football Club.
He finished the year so strong, did Clayton Oliver. He rose to prominence late in this year's TAC Cup season for the Murray Bushrangers. He won the 2015 Morrish Medal. He's a stoppage star, a revelation in the TAC Cup, averaging 25 possessions, including 15 contested, as well as an average of 6 tackles and 6 clearances per game. He uses the ball efficiently, managed a perfect score in the goal-kicking test at the National Combine at Etihad Stadium, and good comparisons to the Brisbane Lions skipper, Tom Rockcliffe.
And he's now a demon at pick 4. Clayton Oliver joining Paul Roos and Simon Goodwin at Melbourne. Selection 5 is the Essendon Football Club.
Now we know it's been a very trying time for the Essendon Football Club in recent seasons, but they get the opportunity with a couple of top 10 picks tonight to get some much needed talent into the squad.
And they've got the next 2 picks, Jason, and it's whether they go with a midfielder and a key position player or just 2 mids. Very interesting to see what they go here.
Well, it is interesting. They also have a brand new coach in John Worsfold, and he's ready to go.
The next player to don the sash is Darcy Parish, Geelong Falcons, Winchelsea Football and Netball Club.
Essendon fans screaming out for class. Well, they got it here with Darcy Parish, one of the classiest midfielders in the 2015 draft pool. An elite kick on both sides of the body, has excellent endurance as well. He's a dual All-Australian who hunts the ball constantly, averaged 28 disposals and 7 clearances in the TAC Cup this year, which are absolutely massive numbers. An elite decision maker. He's comfortable around the stoppages, can hurt the opposition on the outside as well with some pure run. His ability to win the ball makes him a threat when you combine his explosive pace and agility in traffic. His work ethic and solid endurance recorded a 13.8 feet test. Expect him to develop into a Rory Sloane or a Lachie Whitfield as he dons the sash next year.
So Darcy Parish from the Geelong Falcons is now a Bomber with John Worsfold and the team. And selection 6 is once again the Essendon Football Club.
Now, it'll be interesting to see what the tactic is here, whether it is purely and simply the best player available or whether they go to fill a specific need.
Well, I think they've got to start to think about size for mine, get that key position player. I think there'll be 7 or 8 that'll be in the top 15 that are tall, are capable of being that marking target up forward or playing on the big forwards as well down back. So I reckon they'll go tall.
I think it could be Wiedemann or Curnow or the classic utility. I like Aaron Francis from West Adelaide here in South Australia.
We'll see Adrian Dodoro there, who's been head of recruiting at Essendon for many a year, and I'm sure that John Worsfold, as new coach of the Essendon Football Club, is happy to be busy this early.
Aaron Francis, West Adelaide, Loxton North.
Well, Sando, you picked it, and why wouldn't you pick this young man? He's big, he's tough, he's talented. He's a South Australian. He was a standout player in the Under-18 Championships. Versatile, play down back, up forward, through the midfield. He's pretty quiet off the field, but he's a fierce competitor on it. He's elite agility and great speed for his size. He earned All-Australian honours with a dominant carnival, and he's an elite intercept mark, loves the one-on-one contest situation, and he's rarely beaten using his size to advantage. He's a master at reading the play and sets his team up on the rebound. With the versatility to impact around the ground whenever required, he resembles the likes of Brendan Goddard in the way that he plays his football, and he can push forward, as you can see here, impact the scoreboard. Round 2 of the championships, he had 21 and kicked 4 goals.
And there he is, South Australian boy headed to Essendon, Aaron Francis. Selection 8, the Gold Coast Suns.
Well, it was a very disappointing 2015 for the Gold Coast Suns, but the silver lining of that black cloud is an early selection, and there is a bid pending because they are going after one of the GWS Academy boys.
Yeah, this is Jacob Hopper, who played this year for North Ballarat, had an outstanding season, obviously part of the GWS Academy. He's an in and under hard-winning midfielder who also spreads really hard outside the contest. He also takes marks and kicks goals forward. I actually liken him, Jason, a little bit to Patrick Dangerfield, the way that he plays. He's that good.
Well, if he's anything like that, they will do that very comfortably then, matching the bid.
Yes, and it's all they need to do. They'll lose 11, which they hold at the minute to the Giants, and gained 7. To go up to 7
decision
to take,
shifter?
Not a tough decision at all. I really like this player. Wins his own footy, a great size at 186 as well, and as we said, hits the scoreboard when he gets forward.
And especially with the injuries that Gold Coast had last year, they've got stars to come back in every single line, and you add the young talent here with that as well. With GWS, they'd love him if they got him, the Gold Coast Suns, and GWS didn't match that bid because of what they've got coming back anyway. But you think you've got Gubby Allen, Adrian Caruso there, they'll match this bid, don't worry.
Well, they didn't have to wait too long. It has been matched. Here's GWS coach Leon Cameron.
GWS Giants, Jacob Hopper. Giants Academy nominee, North Ballarat Rebels, Leighton Witten Crows.
Sando, as we've discussed, lose Trelaw and get this man straight into their lineup. He's a ball-winning bull, an elite extractor who influences games. He's got a lead endurance. He's got strength across the ground, especially in the contest. Loves his stoppage and contested work around the ground. He's a natural leader, loves to lead by example, earning All-Australian honours at the Under-18 Championships, voted MVP for New South Wales ACT this year. Ollie Wines, who plays for Port Adelaide over here in South Australia, is very similar to this man here, Jacob Hopper.
A big smile for Jacob Hopper, who is off to the GWS Giants. Selection 8 is next from the Gold Coast Suns.
So the Gold Coast Suns' first pick was originally 6. A couple of academy kids have been chosen, so they now go to pick 8. Great to see so many key position players going early. Which way do we expect Gold Coast to go?
Well, it's interesting to see whether they keep with the same strategy. So they've just bid on a midfielder. Now do they switch and perhaps go for one of those great tools that are still on the draft boards, or whether they stick with their original strategy?
All right, we're about to find out, because here's Rodney Eade.
The Gold Coast Suns select Calamar Chi, South Fremantle, Kelmscott Junior Footy Club.
He's the brother of Port Adelaide player Brandon Archie, one of the most exciting medium forwards in this year's draft. He's got pace, agility and tremendous natural leap, taking one of the biggest marks I've ever seen on the MCG. He's already proven himself in senior ranks, taking on the Northern Blues for the NAB AFL Academy and taking, as I said, one of the best marks I've seen. Also very impressive in the waffle this year, playing senior football for South Fremantle. He's among one of the most skillful players in the draft, boasting brilliant use by foot, pinpoint short passes on both sides of his body, and has brilliant vision to match.
And he's now with the Gold Coast Suns, Calamachi at selection 8. And selection 9 is once again the Melbourne Football Club.
Yeah, a couple of top 10 selections for Melbourne. We've seen them already with Clayton Oliver at pick number 4. Now they come in at pick number 9.
Yeah, and I think they're going to have to go for the tall here, Jason. As Shifter mentioned before, we've still got Sam Wiedemann and Charlie Curnow on the boards, so expect one of those players to come here.
Didn't have to wait too long. Here's Paul Roos.
Sam Wiedemann, Eastern Rangers, Vermont Juniors.
Well, he's going to slot in nicely next to Jesse Hogan. Sam Wiedemann, one of the strongest tall forwards in this year's draft crop. He's got special ability to take a contested mark as well, win the ball on the ground and kick accurately in front of goal. Did a truckload of work with Matthew Lloyd this year as part of the AFL Academy. The grandson of Collingwood Premiership captain Murray Wiedemann, breeze football and has always stood out for his courage and aggression on the field. He impressed on the MCG when he stood out for the NAB AFL Academy this year. A player on the rise, and look for him to shine in 2016.
And here he is with the coach Paul Roos. He's now a Demon after being picked up at selection number 9. Selection 10, the Carlton Football Club.
So here are the Blues. As we said, they've got 4 first-round selections. Plenty of talent to choose from here.
Yeah, and they went with obviously Jacob Wiedering, the centre half back. Do they go with another forward there? We mentioned Curnow and Mackay, or do they go the next best mid?
All right, let's have a listen now to Brendan Bolton.
Harry Mackay, Gippsland Power, Warragul Football Club.
Well, we saw a feature earlier on with his twin brother, and he gets the first crack with the Carlton Football Club. He's a forward, he's a ruck, he can pinch hit forward and move into the defence as well. Intercept mark floating back as a ruckman. And look, he's a left footer, he's a tall forward. He's a standout performance against South Australia in the NAB AFL Under-18 Championships. He won all Australian honours. He has a good habit of taking the ball at the highest point, similar to Drew Petrie. And if he can have the influence for the Blues like Drew Petrie does at North Melbourne, look out over the next couple of years.
And there he is, Harry Mackay, rounding off our top 10 draft picks in 2015.
So there are the top 10 selections. I don't think too many surprises, although Clayton Oliver going at pick 4 was probably the one that's really jumped up Shifter.
Bolter from the blue, I'd call him. That's fantastic to see him do that. It just shows that the second half of the year in finals form can be pretty important. I like him to a Paddy Cripps, runner-up in the Rising Star, wins that contested footy, plays with great passion, and he hits the scoreboard. Kicks 6 in a game this year against the Bendigo Pioneers.
It's a change to only 3 midfielders in the top 10.
Exactly
Actually
right.
4 near 4 with Hopper there in the top 10. A lot of taller type players in the top 10 this year.
It's a unique draft, boys. This is to see 5 key position players this early is something that we don't see every year. Obviously shows there's some great young talented big men out there.
Let's go back on stage where Anthony Hudson has the top 10 of the class of 2015.
Indeed, Jason, let's bring them out in their new colours, the top 10 draft picks in the NAB AFL Draft in 2015, starting with number 1, Jacob Wiedering, who's now a Blue, and then at 2, Josh Shackey, at 3, Callum Mills, at 4, Clayton Oliver, who's gone to the Demons, 2 Bomber Boys at 5 and 6, Darcy Parish and Aaron Francis, at 7, Jacob Hopper, at 8, Callum Archie, who joins the Gold Coast Suns, at 9, Sam Wiedemann, who's now a Demon, and Harry Mackay rounding out the top 10. He is with the Blues. And ladies and gentlemen, there they are. A round of applause for our class of 2015.
So there are the top 10 selections of 2015. We've heard a lot about so many of those players, but let's face it, picks 11 to 19 are just as important.
Critical, Jason, and congratulations to those 10 players. And didn't some of those guys look like they're ready to step out and play next week?
Absolutely.
You know, Jacob Wiedering there, pick 1, just looks fantastic. Carlton going with the centre half back and the centre half forward. A little bit like Hawthorn, Jason, back in the day when they took Ruffhead and Franklin early in the draft. So a bit of time, a bit of patience for those Carlton fans, but really good selections for that club.
And great to see 2 youngsters from New South Wales in the top 10 in the draft. We see Jacob Hopper, of course, from the Riverina area, and Callum Mills from the heart of Sydney. So wonderful for the game to see those boys emerging from those markets.
And Wiedering had 30 on the back, whether that stays, and Mills had 14, made famous by Paul Kelly, of course.
It's going to be a lot of excitement for people right around the country as they see some of the early draftees that are coming to their club. Let's go back to Anthony Hudson as round 1 of the draft continues.
Selection 11 is with the Adelaide Football Club.
Now, the Crows are interesting because we also have to take into account the go-home factor, particularly with some of the interstate teams, whether you pick locally or whether you pick someone from interstate?
Yeah, it's interesting, Jason. Obviously, I've sat on that table before, and I know the discussions will be go-home factor. They just lost Paddy Dangerfield. They'll be looking for the next best South Australian talent, and maybe stay away from the Metro boys from Victoria, but there's some fantastic talent still to be chosen here on the draft boards.
Well, we've heard from a couple of new coaches already. Now it's the turn of Don Pike.
The Adelaide Crows select Wayne Malira, Central Districts, Ingle Farm Football Club.
He's the boy with the dancing feet. He's the nimble half forward that really emerged playing for SA at under 18 level and then starred for Central Districts at senior level. Played well in a final, which is pretty important against the men, and Malira, a star of the future, no doubt.
Selection 12, the Carlton Football Club.
A little bit of deliberation here.
Yeah, as I said, Jason, they've had a centre-half back and a centre-half forward. Maybe they would have wanted Malira. There's times when I've sat there, Jason, on those tables, and you just think, that's the one we wanted. And Adelaide have just taken Malira, so now they're just probably talking about midfielders. Who's the next best outside player? Remember, they lost Yaron, Henderson, Bell and Menzel in the off-season. But we can see now Brendan Bolton making his way to stage. They've obviously made a decision.
Yeah, some good discussion, and then the coach is on the move. So with their third pick inside the top 20, we wait for Brendan Bolton from the Carlton Football Club. A little bit of a walk from those back rooms as they come through to the stage to make the pick, but it was good to see a little bit of discussion there, and you like to see the coach and the recruiting manager side by side in earnest discussion, don't you?
You have to put so much trust, Jason, in your recruiting team, your national recruiting manager, your list manager. These guys watch all these young players play throughout the season. You've got to almost hand over the keys on draft night. It's their night. Yes, you can debate, but typically it's those guys that are making the key decisions tonight.
All right, let's go back to Brendan Bolton now.
Charles Curnow, Geelong Falcons, Torquay.
Of course, the brother of Ed Curnow. They've picked the youngster that, well, very different to his brother. He's a 191 centimetre guy that can play as the mercurial forward. He can even push up into the midfield. He's a bit like a Nat Fyfe, actually. Some of the things he did late in the year after coming back from injury were very, very special. I think he's going to make a real player for the Blues.
Selection 13, the Richmond Football Club.
So the first selection for the Tigers in this year's draft, and they look to be in earnest discussion. Damien Hardwick down the back corner, Dan Richardson there as well.
I think they need some outside speed, Jason. I think they've got a fantastic squad, obviously really going to push for finals again in 2016, but it's the outside speed I think they need.
Bid pending there.
All right, they have made a bid for one of the academy kids in Matthew Kennedy.
Yeah, he's a fantastic player. He's a midfielder that can actually spread hard outside. Bit of a bolter shifter this year, Matthew Kennedy. We didn't know much about him at the start of this year.
Yeah, premiership player with Colin Gully. There wouldn't be too many that can claim that then step up to play on the MCG Grand Final day for the Allies, the combined side out of New South Wales.
There's the equation for us, Shifter.
There's the equation. So to lose 34 and 40, need to upgrade to take him at choice 13. So I think it's an easy decision. This boy's really emerged in the last 12 months to be a potential start. Coached by Ty Kennelly, the coach of New South Wales ACT at under 18 level. And as I say, a premiership player with his brothers there at Colin Gully.
And I think GWS have made that easy decision. Here's Leon Cameron.
Matthew Kennedy, Giants Academy, Colin Gully, Ashmont, Kapooka Football Club.
It's a great effort. We've had plenty of time to talk about Matthew Kennedy over the last minute while the decision was being made, but great that once again one of the academies has been able to produce a super talent that gets his chance now in the AFL environment.
Once again, the next selection is with Richmond at selection 14.
So a couple of good early selections for the Tigers.
Yeah, now pick 14. Whether the strategy changes, very much like a Jimmy Bartell type, Matthew Kennedy, who's just been selected, whether they go still down that path or whether they go completely different.
He's the room for a club just to keep another club honest with this bidding process. In fact, we have another bid in here for one of the academy players in one of the ones you told us about earlier, Sando, Eric Hipwood.
Yeah, he's the boy, 202 centimetres, I should say, young man. Fantastic, versatile player. So they've changed their strategy, Jason. They went for the inside mid with a bit of outside speed, and now they've gone for the centre half back.
And this is the way it looks, Jace. Brisbane would lose 36 and 37, move up to 14, 37 to 39.
It's one of the easiest deals you'd ever take.
Wow, that's not too bad, is it? It's for a 200 centimetre who can play forward, back and pinch it through sort of a midfield ruck sort of option for you. It's not a bad thing. You'd certainly take that on, Sando.
It's the one that we talked about that kicked 4 goals in about 20 minutes of the National Championships. That's the moment he arrived. He can play, as we say, back and forward, a bit like a Joey Danaher when he plays forward. Lightly built, but massive upside physically.
And when you see here, guys, when you're looking at what they're looking at on their screen, they'll be looking at calculations, they'll be looking about where the picks move, they'll also be looking at their draft board, they'll be looking what else they really rate, so their next sort of ranked players, to see whether if they did allow Richmond to take Hipwood, who would be their next pick. But I feel a bit sorry here for Richmond, boys.
Yeah, they've had a couple of goes,
They've had a couple of goes at academy players here, so...
and they've missed out both times because here's Justin Lepage.
Brisbane Lions select Eric Hipwood, Academy nominee for the Brisbane Lions, Aspley Football Club.
Another tall in the draft. This is uncanny. There's been, I think that's 7 now key position players have gone early in this draft in the first round.
They're so athletic. They run big beeps. They're great athletes as well, these boys.
Selection 15, the Richmond Football Club.
Let's hope it's third time lucky. But what they have done is they've kept a couple of clubs honest, haven't they?
Yeah, and as Shifton mentioned before, with the integrity of the competition, they actually have to pick the player they think is next on their draft boards. And as you can see there, they've gone for another academy player.
No, that's come down now, so it's not pending. That has come down, so they're going to select a player. You talk about maybe some speed and players that we've focused on early on. There's Rioli is still floating around through that. Matheson maybe inside to help a Cochin. That's some of the type of player that Richmond could be looking at.
Well, it's been hard fought getting this pick across for the Tigers, but finally Damien Hardwick is ready.
The Richmond Football Club picked Daniel Rioli, St Mary's, East Point Football Netball Club, Northern Territory.
Isn't it wonderful? Absolutely wonderful to see another Rioli at the Richmond Football Club. Morris, a champion player for them. Young Daniel is from the Tiwi Islands. He's moved down to Victoria, played at North Ballarat this year, but a star for the NT in the National Championships. And what a famous name that we've had in the AFL now for 20 to 30 years, the Rioli name. The name continues.
Selection 16 is the Adelaide Football Club.
So a couple of first round selections for the Adelaide Crows, and we have a bid pending here. Harrison Himmelberg.
Well, it's interesting because if the bids just come in, Don Pike's just walking towards the stage, so he must be really confident.
He's very confident that Harrison Himmelberg's going to Adelaide.
Because he's a GWS Academy player, so that'll be interesting to see how this unfolds.
And a boy that starred on the MCG in that Allies game. He won the best on-ground medal on the MCG, a 192 centimetre boy from the Riverina, moved into Canberra to play his footy.
And there's a bit involved here too for GWS. Lose 48, 50, 53 and 59. Those draft picks that they stockpiled through the trade period move up to 16, and then they move to 61, 64 and 71.
And they've already had to do it a couple of times, GWS, haven't they?
Well, he's back, Jason. Don Pike's come back to the table, and Leon Cameron's not there. So whether GWS are going to match this bid, that's probably the first surprise in the draft, Jason. That's a very high bid for Harrison. He's an excellent player, really high energy third tall forward. He's a 19-year-old, so didn't get drafted last year. GWS now obviously looking to match that bid.
And in fact, they have matched the bid because once again, it's Leon Cameron.
Harrison Himmelberg, Giants Academy.
So they've had to use a number of their draft picks, haven't they? And very fortunate that they stockpiled a number of them, particularly GWS, because it's a couple of times they've had to go to the back pocket to splurge a few picks.
They have, but early on it didn't affect them too much. That's probably the biggest one so far, the surprise of Himmelberg being nominated so early.
Be interesting to see what they do now later in the draft, because they've used 3 picks quite early. Obviously the picks go right out the back now. They've still got some academy players that they'd like to pick up. So time now just to wait and see.
Selection 17 is once again the Adelaide Football Club.
It's probably one of the teams you think is ready to make an assault if they can get the right couple of players into that mix. Even though they have lost Paddy Dangerfield, there's still a very talented squad.
Yeah, they've picked up Hampton, Menzel and Seedsman. They've done really well in the trade period, the Adelaide Crows, and obviously picking the local boy in Malira. They've got a really good squad. Very tough draw next year. Be tough for them, but certainly got the talent.
Plenty of discussion. We haven't... in fact, he is ready there now. Don Pike, once again, for the Adelaide Football Club.
The Adelaide Crows select Tom Doudet from Geelong Falcons St Joseph's Football Club.
Well, they've gone for the medium defender who is a close-down player, a boy that was elite in the basketball arena but switched back to footy in the last couple of years and comes from that great program there at the Geelong Falcons that have been producing great draftees for many years. Great closing speed, very disciplined player, great run out of defence and a great pick-up for the Crows.
Selection 18, the St Kilda Football Club.
So now for the first time we see the St Kilda Football Club with their first selection in the draft, Alan Richardson the coach, and they look like they've still got a bit to chat about.
Yeah, I still like a midfielder for this selection. You can see the coach making his way to the dais now. I know they really like Harley Ballack, who's a big-bodied midfielder from the Sandringham Dragons, lives locally. Be interesting to see what they go with here. There's not the quality with the tools. We know they went really early, but I can see a big-bodied mid really helping St Kilda.
Team that looks to have a lot of good young talent already that they're starting to build, so they'd love to get another couple of quality players in to sort of grow them together under Alan Richardson.
Last year McCartan, they got Goddard as well, so they got the tools last year, so you're right. Maybe there's someone to help in and under a little bit as well is important for Saints next year.
Well, they've still got Dunstan, Armitage, Stephen. Remember there's the bid tonight for father-son in Rice, so this is a critical pick for the Saints.
Yeah, it's important. It really is, and that's the key for the Saints. They're on the rise. They want to be on the rise. Maybe they want to make a massive impact in 2016 and really jump similar to what the Bulldogs did last year.
All right, I think Alan Richardson is ready for the Saints' first pick.
Jade Gresham, Northern Knights, South Morang Football Club.
Gone for the no-fuss clearance star. This boy had the most wonderful year. MVP for Vic Metro, starred at the Northern Knights, just prolific ball winner. He capped the Northern Knights, an Indigenous boy, and he bounces up, as Tommy Hafer would say, like the Indian rubber man. He hits the deck and up in a flash, he hits the scoreboard and he goes forward. Had a stellar year and great to see him get his opportunity.
Selection 19 is the Hawthorn Football Club.
Well, they haven't had too many early selections in recent seasons, the Hawks, so I think they're pretty keen to get a couple of young players into the mix. They do have a pretty experienced squad, so I think it's really important for the Hawks to get some quality young players coming in.
Yeah, of course, if they're going to start to transition their list, you think, over the next 3 to 4 years, and that's important. And it really does start with this year's draft, because in a couple of years, the likes of Hodge and Mitchell and the real champions of the game and this club will probably step away from the game. So that next row of talent needs to start coming through.
Graham Wright, the head of recruiting for the Hawks, got a pretty experienced team around him as well.
A couple of really good set-up kicks still on the draft boards too, Jason. I really like Darcy Tucker from North Ballarat and Riley Bonner, a local player here from West Adelaide who's almost a quarterback. He suits the sort of style that Hawthorn play. As we said, the key position players are pretty much off the board. They're really high quality. Still Ben Mackay though. Ben Mackay, who we saw his brother Harry get drafted earlier, he's still available on the draft boards.
All right, let's find out which way the Hawks are going to go with Alistair Clarkson.
the Hawthorn Football Club, Ryan Burton, North Adelaide, Foss Camden.
Well, he's the boy that, of course, had the badly broken leg 14 months ago. So he's the Jake Stringer of this draft, touted as a top 5 pick probably last year. He's overcome that injury now, back in great physical condition. Very talented medium forward, about the 190 centimetre mark, a goal kick, a brilliant kick for goal, very athletic and a great choice, Ryan Burton.
Selection 20, the Gold Coast Suns Football Club.
So once we start getting 20 picks or so in, I think we're going to see some deeper discussions around these tables, aren't we, Sando?
Yeah, and the Gold Coast Suns lost Charlie Dixon, we know, in the off-season. They have got a fantastic squad. A lot of players returning from injury next season. Remember, they took Speed, the half-forward Calamachi, with their first selection. So it may be a different strategy now. Go more for a needs basis with this pick.
Here's the next pick for the Suns with Rodney Eade.
Gold Coast select Braden Fiorini, Northern Knights, Greensboro Juniors.
Another prolific ball winner, averaged over 30 possessions a game playing for the Northern Knights, played for Vic Metro, a lefty, classy winner of the football in all circumstances, inside or outside, really developed as the year unfolded, and he's going to make a player for the Suns.
Selection 21 is with the North Melbourne Football Club.
Now, for the first time tonight, we see North Melbourne, another team that'll be looking to bolster their squad. They're thereabouts with a couple of top 4 finishes in recent seasons.
Yeah, and potentially, Jono, looking here, I think, for key position players, you know, with Drew Petrie being 33 years of age now, whether they go for a different strategy to that. I still think Kieran Collins might be the right pick for North Melbourne here. I'm surprised to see him get as low as 21. We could see Brad Scott was quickly almost running to the dice, Jason, so he really likes this pick when he gets up to this stage, but still some fantastic players left to go.
Well, he's ready to go, Sando. Here's Brad Scott.
The North Melbourne Football Club select Ben Mackay, Gippsland Power, Warragul Netball and Football Club.
Well, the twins are up. Fantastic to see it become the 7th set of twins to be drafted into the AFL, which is just fantastic. And it just shows, again, that you don't have to have starred for 2 or 3 years in a row to get a chance at AFL level. He made the switch into play for Gippsland Power into the season. Once he'd seen how well his twin brother was going, playing for Gippsland and for Vic Country, and had a wonderful second half of the year. Plays both ends of the ground, 200 centimetre boy that, doesn't turn 18 until the day before Christmas, but great for the Mackay family.
Selection 22, the Hawthorn Football Club.
This is the second early selection for the Hawks, so a couple of first-round picks at the back end of the first round, but nevertheless a couple of important picks for this club.
Yeah, Ryan Burton was a great selection for them because he's much better than pick 19, but he had the horrific leg injury, so they can take their time with him. They can be patient. They can wait for him to overcome the injury. Now I think they just they pull the trigger on the next best available talent for the Hawthorn Footy Club.
They've got serious talent as it is, Jason, already.
Well, here comes some more talent because Alistair Clarkson's ready to go.
Selection 22, Hawthorn Football Club, Kieran Lovell, Kingborough Junior Tigers Football Club.
The Kieran Lovell is from Kingston in Tasmania. Now, he's only small, 174 centimetres, but he's an accumulator. He wins the footy. Great clearance player. Had a fantastic championships. Surprised to see him go that high, but he's going to play AFL footy straight away.
Selection 23, the Carlton Football Club.
Well, he is the 4th of the Blues' first-round picks, the last pick of round 1.
They've gone 3 tours, Jason, so can they go for 4 tours?
I'm amazed at the number of key position and tall type players that have gone in the first 22 picks.
It's a unique year. It's been a draft year where we've seen so much rich talent, key position players be available, but there's still some fantastic midfielders I mentioned before. Tucker, Bonner, Mitch Hibbard from Tasmania who's still on the boards. I like Ben Crocker from Oakley, who's a goal-kicking forward. Blake Hardwick kicked bags of 12 and 10 this year for Easton. There's some fantastic players still available in this draft.
I like Hardwick as well because he's tough. He likes to scrap as well as compete and kick the goals, which are important. But he puts good forward pressure on as well.
I think they certainly need some goal kickers, the Blues too, don't they?
Well, they do. Then they've lost Menzel as well over here, so that's the one for the Blues potentially to pick up. Brenton Bolton has made his way. The pick is now in. We just wait for him to make his way up. But Steve Silvani's had some big selections so far, and it's very important. They're starting to rebuild there at Carlton, and it starts tonight. And the selections they've made already have been critical. Kieran Collins is the other one who may sneak in as a fullback.
Ballock and Matheson still available too, boys, who are fantastic young mids. To see them go out of the top 22, Ballock from Sandringham, Matheson from the Geelong Falcons, both of those players would come in and help Carlton straight away.
Well, they certainly took their time. There's a new coach. He must think it's Christmas, Brendan Bolton, because he has had 4 picks in round 1. And with the last pick of round 1, here he is once again.
David Cunningham, Oakley Chargers, Canterbury Junior Football Club. All right, so that is the end of round 1 of the 2015 AFL National Draft. Now, and we'll look back at it. I don't think there were too many surprises, although a couple jumped up a bit higher than we thought, and maybe a couple slipped down.
Yeah, and David Cunningham there, of course, pace is his X factor. He's got a couple of gears, a bit like a Rolls Royce, can just accelerate away from the stoppages, and that's what they've gone for with that selection.
So we're looking at picks 11 through to 23. We've got a couple of pages to look at here. Harrison Himmelberg was one you said, Sando, you thought was a bit of a bolter.
Yeah, I love him. I think he's a fantastic athlete. He runs really hard between the arcs. He's that sort of third tall forward. Surprised to see him get bid on so early though. And GWS won't be happy with that. That's going to cost them a lot of points. Surprised to see the Crows too pass on a couple of South Australians and pick a Victorian, but that's fine as well. And here we can see the last couple of selections. The Mackay boys, the twins going in the top 21. That's a fantastic story.
All right, we're going to take a break here at the Adelaide Convention Centre. Round 2 coming up on the other side. And a few clubs still to enter the draft for the first time.
Are you with me? Are you with me?
Welcome back to the 2015 NAB AFL Draft, and it's time now for round 2, and we're on Channel 503 with Mick Ablett and Sarah Jones to take you through the remainder of the selections.
Mick, things haven't gone to script entirely in round 1. Some amazing talent still left on the draft board. I know you were surprised by a lot. The Western Bulldogs must be absolutely licking their lips with what they've got here.
Yeah, well, they probably are, Sarah, but it probably creates a little bit more confusion in the selection room now. I'm certainly a little bit more surprised than what the boys were on the panel to see the likes of Harley Ballock, Kieran Collins, Darcy Tucker and Riley Bonner still on the boards. Incredible position to be in for the Bulldogs.
What do the Western Bulldogs need? They were one of the fantastic teams of the 2015 season. They really bolted towards the finals. They've got a good list, but there's always room for improvement.
Yeah, well, they've done a remarkable job, the Bulldogs, over the last few years. You look at Jake Stringer, who I guess a lot of people thought was a bit of a risk due to the injury that he come off. Marcus Bontempelli raised a few eyebrows in that particular draft, and Jason McCartney, Simon Dalrymple and the team have done a brilliant job of finding the talent with that X factor, and I'm sure they won't waste these next couple of picks.
A familiar name is, of course, former Brisbane Lions captain Jed Adcock, who gained permission from the AFL to train with the Western Bulldogs this week. 206 games. We don't expect him to be taken this early in the draft, but will he be taken at all tonight?
Yeah, I would expect a couple of senior players possibly, or delisted players, to go a little bit later in the draft, but there's also free agency now, which creates a fantastic opportunity. We've seen Jared Grant, we've seen Daniel Gorringe make their way to new clubs, so yeah, it's going to be interesting as it goes on.
Okay, we have a bid pending.
Yeah, Ben Keys has been bid on again. He's another one that I wouldn't have been surprised to see fall in the first round, Sarah. He's just a ball magnet, this kid. He just repeatedly finds the footy. I liken him a little bit to Matthew Priddis, in the sense he's got some really nice traits. He's fantastic around the stoppages, and a young man that's burst onto the scene and produced some outstanding football.
I've seen comparisons to Simon Black. That would make Brisbane Lions incredibly happy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think any time a player gets compared to someone like Simon Black's a pretty handy position to be in.
Okay, let's hand things over to the AFL Chief Executive, Gillon McLachlan.
Ben Keys, Academy nominee for Brisbane Lions, Morningside Junior Football Club.
So the Academy is already throwing up some incredibly interesting permutations and combinations on tonight. Has it gone the way we thought it was going to be, or have there been a few surprises from within the clubs?
I think it's outstanding when you look at what the AFL club academies are producing now, Sarah, and it's not just for their own football club. We saw a couple of guys last year make their way to Port Adelaide that had come through the GWS Academy, so it's important for the game that we continue to grow it, and it's obviously already getting to a stage where these clubs won't be able to list every player, so it's good for the other clubs as well.
And some big news here with a bid pending.
Josh Dunkley, yeah, this is going to get really interesting now, because obviously it cost the Swans a bit to get Callum Mills with pick 3 there, and you're looking at the son of a gun, Andrew Dunkley, obviously champion Sydney Swans player, but Josh has got leadership written all over him. If you're looking at the vision here, you'll see a young man that's certainly got the capacity to play back and forward. His strength, though, is an inside mid. He's got very, very clean hands, and like I say, I liken him a little bit to Angus Brayshaw in terms of the leadership that he brings. He's got the respect of the players, but he can also have a bit of a laugh and a joke and enjoy some time with them as well.
A Victorian, how much of an influence is that on a situation like this when Sydney look at deciding whether to match it or not? Because it seems as if he'd like to remain here.
Yeah, he certainly would. He's made that clear to everybody. He's certainly not opposed to going and playing at the Sydney Swans. He spent a couple of weeks up there during the year, but I think his preference is to remain in Victoria. And even Andrew and Lisa Dunkley, his parents, have looked at moving closer to Melbourne if that is the case.
Okay, here's Luke Beveridge.
Just read it out. The Western Bulldogs select Josh Dunkley. Is it on? It's not on. They're talking.
Such a big night for all of the young men right around Australia, and the nerves you have to feel for everyone sitting at home, watching on television, hoping that their name will be called out, because their lives would change quite immediately.
It certainly would, and you'd think even when we look at Josh Dunkley, Sarah, with his father being in the room and having such an extensive AFL career, you would have thought they'd be pretty calm, but I can guarantee you there would have been a lot of nerves in the Dunkley household, and there's still a lot of young men sitting at home watching the TV, hoping to see their name appear on the screen as well.
What's the balance of power between the senior coach and the recruiting manager as we see them all sitting around the table?
Yeah, well, you've certainly, I know Sando mentioned it earlier on the coverage, you've got to trust your recruiting staff. These are guys that are watching week in, week out. That's their purpose at the footy club, is to get these decisions right and to know these players inside out. So I think the senior coaches, over time have had some sort of influence. I don't know how successful it's been, but at the end of the day, you've got to go with what the recruiters are offering.
How big are these recruiting teams? Does it differ from the poorer clubs to the richer clubs, or is it pretty standard across the board?
Well, there was quite a gap. I know the West Coast Eagles had a fairly large number, around a dozen full-time recruiters, but then the soft cap came in, and clubs aren't so much prepared and don't want to pay the luxury tax and those sorts of things, so there's been some really big cuts made Some clubs are still going a little bit lighter in recruiting, but look, I think that'll start to even out over the next few years.
What are we watching? Obviously, TAC Cup, SANFL, Waffle, the VFL are the obvious ones, but it does go a lot deeper than that.
Yeah, it's and even local football, amateur games, they won't leave a stone unturned, these guys, and they have to do that because for the most part, the popular players are watched week in, week out, and everyone's got a really good handle on them. But, you know, if you can find a diamond in the rough and get one that no one knows about, it's a great achievement, and good luck to the footy club that can.
We should mention there's a few technical issues here with the system, so we're just going to wait and see as the draft moves into the next stage.
Yep, so you see the pick is in, just waiting on that to be confirmed and called out.
The inspiration behind this new system that we're seeing this year, where does it come from? Who thought it up? What kind of research went into it?
Well, it's interesting. It certainly created a lot of debate. We saw it run through the media for a fair period of time. But, look, I think at the end of the day, they've got it right.
OK, let's hand things back to Gillum McLaughlin to get us back on track.
Pick 26, Kieran Collins, Dandenong Stingrays, Langwarrin Junior Football Club.
Kieran Collins is a guy that you're incredibly impressed with. I know you've been watching his name and in disbelief that as he's been overlooked by club after club, now he's found a home.
The incredible thing is too, he was, the Bulldogs were keen on him, and I know they had no idea he would still have been there at that choice. I think everyone expected him to go earlier, so they will be extremely happy to get two outstanding young men like Josh Dunkley and Kieran Collins.
I read that he wasn't beaten very often in one-on-one contests. That has got to be such an attribute for a young player.
Yeah, no, look, he was brilliant. We spoke about him briefly in the pre-draft show. He just went from being a solid defender that really shut his opponent down to becoming quite an attacking defender. Overnight, it happened for him. He gets his body in front and actually takes intercept marks and contested marks. So played a game against Sam Wiedemann earlier in the year, and Sam ended up kicking 5 goals. And the amazing thing was, I think most people gave Kieran Collins the chocolate. So it was a very, very entertaining game, and one that I know stood out for a lot of people as one of the best of the year.
A big-bodied player. How soon could he play AFL football?
Well, the amazing thing is he's not actually 18 until the middle of December, so he's still 3 weeks ago. But like you say, he's a beast, this young man. He is just
100
an
kilo,
specimen.
194 centimetres, so certainly a physical ability to be able to play pretty soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, there's no doubt he'll learn the little things. It's the tricks that these boys need to learn, how to use their hands, how to shift the hips of opponents, and, you know, that's often referred to as a craft of a player. He'll certainly get better at that, but in terms of character and what he brings to a football club, you'd be absolutely stoked to have a young man like that walk through the doors. So we're waiting on Fremantle here.
Ross Lyon must be incredibly jet-lagged after his trip from the international rules, and then he went back to Fremantle and then across here to Adelaide, but I'm sure is pretty sharp tonight in making what is a big decision for the Fremantle Football Club as they look to remain in the top parts of the ladder for the future years to come.
Yeah, well, this is really interesting too, what Fremantle are going to do. We understand they got Matthew Pavlik that's on the verge of retirement probably in the next 12 months, but that's where the importance of the tall forwards, and that's why they're so sought after early in the draft. So very, very interested to see which way Fremantle go here as Ross Lyon makes his way through to the stage.
This pick, of course, was received from the Gold Coast as part of the trade for Harley Bennell.
Yeah, so that's where, like I say, it's going to be very, very interesting. There's still Harley Ballick is one that stands out for mine that's still on the board from the Sandy Dragons. He's a young man that's at 187 centimetres. He's your modern-day midfielder and a young player that just oozes class. So it's going to be interesting to see how much longer he sits around for.
Ross Lyon, the coach of the Fremantle Football Club, still searching for that elusive first premiership, but undoubtedly one of the best coaches in the competition. As we said, he's been part of the International Rules Series over in Ireland, now back here to make a few decisions that are so crucial for his football club's future.
We see on the screen there too, Brad Lloyd out the back, the list manager for the Fremantle Football Club. He's obviously very, very well respected in football circles for what he's been able to build over there. And look, he's very, very rarely gets these decisions wrong, Brad Lloyd. So it's over to Ross.
Fremantle Football Club select Darcy Tucker, North Ballarat Rebels, Horsham Saints Football and Netball Club.
Well, we can have a look at Darcy Tucker from the North Ballarat Rebels. So Fremantle taking the plunge and picking a Victorian, hoping that he finds a home out west and enjoys it there.
An outstanding athlete, Darcy. He's run a 15.3 beep, which puts him in an elite category. He's also got really good leg speed. Left footer, uses the ball nicely. His preferred position is going to be off the half-back flank, so it's interesting. They must have rated him slightly ahead of Riley Bonner, a local product here out of SA. But Darcy, very, very good as a 17-year-old. I thought he had a pretty good year as an 18-year-old as well, but just slid down the chart a bit. He'll be stoked to be heading west.
And the West Coast Eagles, of course, grand finalist in 2015 with pick number 28. What are they going to do here?
Well, they've got they're in a very, very fortunate position, Sarah, in terms of where their list's at, because I think they're one of the few clubs that could basically go anywhere on the ground. So I think they'll go best player. They generally like players that can run and cover the ground and link up through the midfield, particularly on the quick deck over there at Subiaco. So this one's very, very interesting. Adam Simpson gets to make his way on the stage and call out the first selection for the West Coast Eagles.
What are the challenges of non-Victorian clubs in terms of watching the TAC Cup, which is a big feeder of talent in Australia? Adam Simpson's beat us to it. Here he is.
West Coast Eagles select Luke Partington, Norwood, Tumby Bay Football Club.
And you can hear the applause in the room there, Sarah. Look, unfortunately, I actually went over early in the year. Luke Partington's father was killed in a workplace accident, which was a very, very sad occasion. This young man, when you speak character and you talk about how resilient players are, he was unbelievable. I got very, very close to the family and the friends there in Tumby Bay, and they could not speak higher of a young man that's made some really crucial decisions and kept the family together. His mum will be ecstatic. It's been a tough year for the family, but there's a little ray of sunshine at the end of it, and something that I'm sure Luke will have done his family proud.
What a beautiful story. Well, we have a look now at the Essendon Football Club, who have the next two picks in the draft. They've been a powerful player tonight. It has been their most powerful position in more than a decade, given they've had the picks to make a big difference and a big assault on the top round.
It just goes to show as well when, and I know it happened to the Adelaide Football Club, but when clubs do get into an unfortunate position of losing draft picks, the impact on a football club is massive. And that's what Essendon have had to endure, and they now put themselves in a position where they can take multiple choices early on and select some real quality footballers.
They've already picked up a midfielder in Darcy Parish and also Aaron Francis, who is a utility and a defender. They need support for Joe Danaher. They need some scoring power. John Worsfold said as much only yesterday. Will they look to a forward here?
I think you've got to continue to take the best player. Essendon, you look, they probably need a bit of help in the midfield as well, as Joe Watson grows a little bit older, and Brendan Goddard and these sorts of guys. Just interesting note here, Sarah, they've requested additional time, the Bombers, so obviously really deep in thought as to which way they will go.
What's happened here, do you think? Is it a matter of things throwing them out in terms of their calculations? Is it needing extra time to debate one or two players?
No doubt. When we spoke about the surprises early on in the draft, it's probably just thrown a cat amongst the pigeons a little bit, but I think, once again, you just got to stick to picking the best player.
Okay, here's Gil.
Pick 29, Essendon choose Alex Morgan, Oakley Chargers, Waverley Blues.
Amazing story again, Alex Morgan. He's from Indian descent, so one of a number of multicultural players in this year's draft mix. He's got elite speed. He tested 2.88 seconds over 20 metres. We watched him. He suffered a wrist injury during the year, missed quite a lot of football, came back and played in a premiership with the Oakley Chargers and was pivotal in the last quarter, kicking a couple of goals late. So looking for a bit of leg speed and a bit of outside run, the Bombers, and they've certainly got that in Alex Morgan.
And we've got another pick for the Essendon Football Club. It was originally pick 25. The Academies has pushed that out somewhat. That pick was received from Melbourne as part of the trade for Jake Melksham. So as we said earlier, the Bombers with their best opportunity in quite some time to be able to make a big impact on their list and moving forward.
Yeah, look, I tend to think they might be looking for a medium defender at the moment, a really good user of the footy. You look at Michael Hibberd, Mark Bagley and those sorts of guys that do a fantastic job at the Bombers. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Riley Bonner, even Harley Ballock. We've seen Harley play half back, he's played half forward. So I think they'll be looking for a player that can really use the football. They're crucial to teams today. Brendan Goddard, obviously, clearly a brilliant kick of the footy off half-back. Be handy to have another one of those, I would have thought.
Well, the Bombers have had just 5 top 25 picks since 2009, so this draft must feel like Christmas for Adrian Dodoro and his team of recruiters. And the pick is in. We await word on what Essendon has done. It's over to Gil.
Pick 30, Essendon, Mason Redmond, Glenelg, Millicent Junior Football Club.
The Adelaide crowd pretty happy about that one.
Yeah, local product out of Glenelg, Mason, so great result for South Australian football. I kind of like it, and I was actually sitting there watching some vision of him yesterday back in the hotel room, and he reminded me a lot of Jack Gunston. He plays that really important role in that medium forward. He leads up well. He's got a fantastic set of hands and strong overhead for a player of 187 centimetres.
The North Melbourne Football Club. Their turn is now. Pick number 31. What will they be looking for here?
Well, it's interesting. They took Ben Mackay with their first pick, obviously, so they've gone the tall defender. Needs, you would have thought... I'd be thinking, again, a bit of outside speed. If you look at Jack Zeeble and, the likes of their insider, Ben Cunnington and those sorts of players, I think a little bit of class on the outside. They really missed Daniel Wells this year, so this one's going to be very, very interesting. It's starting to get a little bit harder.
Pick 31, North Melbourne, Ryan Clark, Eastern Rangers, Rowville.
Average 30 disposals in the TAC Cup.
This kid's outstanding in terms of his work ethic and his gut running. I haven't seen too many kids that have got the ability to push themselves like this young fella can. He just gets up and down the ground like very few can. So he's got a little bit of work to do on his kicking. He's improved that over the course of 2015, and I think once he makes a few more improvements in that area, he can certainly do some damage through the midfield in particular. An Eastern Rangers boy too, so nice to see another one of those after Sam Wiedemann going early in the draft to the Melbourne Football Club.
Collingwood with pick number 32.
Yeah, so they obviously did a fair bit of work through the trade period with Adam picking up Adam Treloar and losing a couple of picks there. But they'll be pretty excited, I would have thought, to get in the mix and start calling some names out here tonight.
Derek Hine on screen there in charge of the Collingwood list, and as you said, only one pick inside the top 65. So a quieter night today, but they certainly were so busy and so active during the trade period. They really did dominate proceedings there.
Yeah, they did, and they've they've got a brilliant team that I think will be one of the big movers in 216.
Collingwood Football Club welcomes Braden Sire, Northern Knights, Banyule Junior Footy Club.
So Collingwood taking Braden Sire with pick number 32, a midfield forward.
Yeah, these are the really interesting ones, Sarah, because there was quite a bit of interest late in the season around Braden. And this is what I love about where we're at with AFL football. Didn't attend the National Combine, didn't attend the Victorian State Combine, and still makes his way onto an AFL list. So gives a lot of hope to young men that out of the 200 that we do test nationally around the country, that they can certainly still come from anywhere.
North Melbourne with pick number 33. We're seeing a bit of activity from their table.
Yeah, but I think we could quite possibly see some clubs start to request additional time now, because these are the choices that you get these right and you can still end up with a 200, 250 game player. So very, very important that they continue to dot the I's and cross the T's and get the player that their club really badly needs.
AFL history is littered with success stories of players taken late in the draft.
Yeah, well, in particular, and I know we certainly haven't seen them yet, the Geelong Footy Club, but when you think of guys like Cameron Ling and Corey Enright and these sorts of...
Matthew Stokes at 61.
Absolutely. We're talking genuine superstars of the game. So that's why, you hear plenty of talk throughout the year of the draft being shallow and all these sorts of things, but... there's gems there, and there's going to be genuine superstars go late in the draft, no doubt.
And as you predicted, a time extension for North Melbourne, making sure they're getting this spot on. How many players that we'll see drafted tonight will be lining up in round one, do you think? Because it is such a difficult thing to get through the pre-season and be at that standard that the rest of the group is, but we do see some players come on, burst onto the scene and make an impact early.
It's remarkable, really. Every year I shake my head at what these young men produce, the expectation, the pressure on them to step up year after year is incredible, and they continue to deliver. So I think over time we've seen guys, Ollie Wines, we've seen Louis Taylor come in and have an impact straight away at AFL level. So I've got no doubt that that plenty of these boys that we're seeing tonight will feature pretty prominently early in the year.
Is this a year-out process, 2 years, 3 years? Will clubs be targeting the next crop of talent?
Yeah, it adds another layer now with the ability to trade future picks. So clubs are really starting to look a lot closer as 16 and 17-year-olds.
Pick 33, North Melbourne Football Club, Mitchell Hibbard, Clarence.
Injuries wrecked his 2014 season, but is certainly one that is very highly rated.
Yeah, he had a bad knee injury, he's had shoulder injuries. I'm really happy with this one, Sarah. I really, really like this kid. When you're just talking ready-made players that'll have an impact at AFL level next year, this kid's one of them. 190 centimetres and 85 kilos. He is certainly someone that can come in, play in the midfield and stand up to the bigger bodies.
Gold Coast Suns with pick number 34 and a decision.
It was a very quick one.
Pick 34, Gold Coast Suns, Joshua Schoenfeld, Peel Thunder, Rockingham Junior Football Club.
The Gold Coast Suns taking another midfielder to add to what is a pretty deep list of midfielders at the club.
He's a little bit of a bolter too, Josh Schoenfeld. We watched him at the Combine. He was unbelievably produced a 16-2 beat, which very, very few, but that's Bradley Hill, Billy Hartung type, and results, and then backed it up the next day and came out and blew him away in and won the 3K time trial in 9 minutes and 15 seconds. So they've gone for the athlete, and we've seen the success that Hawthorn have had with their outside run. Isaac Smith, another one to be mentioned in amongst those guys. Josh Schoenfeld is a great result, and another West Australian gone.
We can head back to Gill to hear who the Western Bulldogs have selected with pick number 35 in the national draft.
Pick 35, Western Bulldog, Marcus Adams, West Perth, Upper Swan Football Club.
So the Bulldogs selecting a key position player there.
He's a big boy too. We were over at the WA State Combine, and you talk about Kieran Collins. Marcus Adams is a little bit more mature than what Kieran is in terms of age, but he's an incredible specimen. And again, we've seen another young man that's got the capacity to come in and impact early.
The West Coast Eagles, I was asking you before how difficult it is for interstate clubs to be able to keep a really close eye on the TAC Cup, given that it is based out of Victoria. They have recruiters all around the country, but it must make it a little more difficult.
They've got the ability to get access to vision and stuff these days. They do a pretty good job, and they know what they have for breakfast, these kids.
Okay, we are ready with the West Coast Eagles pick number 36 selection.
Pick 36, West Coast Eagles. Thomas Cole, Sandhurst Football Netball Club, Strathfield Junior Football Club.
From the Bendigo Pioneers, played in quite a few positions over the course of the year, but mainly in defence.
He's one of the most improved players, I thought, in the country this year. I go back to a game he played on grand final day for the NAB AFL Academy, and it was just his composure and his decision making was outstanding. I think half back's his spot. He's played a little bit in the midfield, as well as, like you saw there on the vision, pushing forward and impacting the scoreboard. But he's just a really smart user of the footy that, as I say, makes good decisions, which is imperative in the speed of today's footy.
Port Adelaide Football Club with pick number 37. Their pick is in. What do you think they'll be doing here?
It's interesting, we were talking about homegrown talent, and we see players wanting to go interstate and go back home a fair bit these days. I think the crowd wouldn't mind hearing Riley Bonner's name called out pretty shortly.
And the crowd's had to wait a little while for Port Adelaide to enter tonight's draft. This is their first selection.
And great to see Jason Cripps too, after what he endured earlier on in the year. So great to see Cripper back at the table there, and we wish him and obviously his family all the best going forward.
And here is Ken Hinkley to make the big announcement.
Port Adelaide Football Club picks Riley Bonner, West Adelaide Goodwood Saints.
A pretty good kick from what I understand. Unbelievable kick of the football.
Raking left foot, but he's not only got distance, he's got great penetration as well. You see him here, guys that can use the footy like him, the Matthew Suckling types, they become absolute gems coming out of your backline and being able to pinpoint players down in your forward 50. So just seeing him stand up over here in the room, and the family looks pretty happy that he'll be remaining in South Australia.
What an amazing moment, as you said, from West Adelaide, 191 centimetres, 81 kilos, so a pretty good size as well.
Yeah, beautiful size, and they're the ones. He's got the ability to play tall and small as well, a little bit like that Andrew Mackie type role that we've seen him do so well.
Okay, the Fremantle Dockers with the next selection. And here is Gil McLaughlin. The pick is in, number 38.
Pick number 38, Fremantle Football Club. Harley Ballick, Sandringham Dragons, Morty Alec Brayside Junior Football Club.
You've been waiting for Harley's name to be called for quite a while.
Yeah, I'm a Harley Ballick fan. I certainly make no bones about that. It's just his class. He's got all the time in the world when the ball's in his hands, and he comes from the basketball background, and he has got similar traits when you watch him here on the vision to Scott Pendlebury. They just got time and great evasive skills, great lateral movement in traffic, and look, I've seen Harley mature over the last 12 months, and like I say, I'm playing multiple roles on the ground. So for Freo to get him with pick 38, I think is an absolute steal.
All-Australian at under 18 level in 2015 as well.
Yeah, and he was leading the medal through the under 18 championships early days. So great get for Freo.
Okay, plenty more to come here from Adelaide as the 2015 NAB AFL Draft continues.
And welcome back to the 2015 NAB AFL Draft here at the Adelaide Convention Centre. Time now for round 3 as we rejoin Sarah Jones and Mick Ablett.
The Brisbane Lions are next up, Mick, and this is such a crucial draft for the Lions. It's crucial for all clubs, but for one that's been stuck down the bottom of the ladder for a while, they haven't played finals for 6 years. It's so important, and we can head straight to Gil McLaughlin to see who they're picking with number 39.
Pick 39, Brisbane Lions. Reece Matheson, Geelong Falcons, Bell Park.
It is important, Sarah. We've seen him be in a very fortunate position to pick up Josh Shackey with pick 2, who had a link to the footy club, and then a couple of local products in Eric Hipwood and Ben Keys. So important for Brisbane to get players that do want to remain in the state and players that they could build their future around. Reece is a dual All-Australian, so again, for him to be out at pick 39 is remarkable, and one that I'm sure the Brisbane Lions will be really happy about.
A pretty fierce competitor too, I understand.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, look at him here. He was legitimately the clearance king of the under-18 championships. He just got a knack around the stoppages of finding it. Generally used it pretty well by hand, and his best mate sitting in the room, Darcy Parish, would have been pretty happy to see his mate's name called out too.
Okay, we can see the St Kilda Football Club on screen now. Their coach, Alan Richardson, looking things over. Their pick is in. What do the Saints need to look at here? Hold that thought. We're going to find out from Gil.
Pick 40, St Kilda Football Club. Brandon White, Dandenong Stingrays, Beaconsfield Junior Football Club.
Outstanding get. This young man, a little bit similar to Riley Bonner actually, in the way he uses the ball off half-back. He's a thumping kick of the football. Watched him play in the last round of the year down at Geelong, and he actually pushed forward on that day. Craig Black, the coach of the Dandenong Stingrays, used him as a weapon forward, and with great success too. So super get, and one that can do a lot of damage off half-back for you.
The Melbourne Football Club have been major players throughout tonight, and there's a bid pending.
Yeah, well, I spoke to Darren Denneman, the New South Wales ACT State Talent Manager, and he was very, very bullish on Matthew Flynn, and a big rap on him earlier in the year when we chatted. I'd be surprised if GWS passed this one up, particularly to the fact that there's not a lot of ruckmen around, and he's a brilliant kid, Matty Flynn, and one that's got better and better over the last couple of years.
And there we go. The bid has been matched.
Yes, a great work by GWS. They've been able to acquire 4 academy players, which is a great result for their footy club, and also a fantastic result, like I said, for Darren Denneman and New South Wales footy.
Pick 41, GWS Giants, Matthew Flynn, academy nominee, Narrandera Football Club.
Pretty big boy too, Sarah, 200 centimetres. He's got a fantastic nature off-field, Matty Flynn, but one of those players that when he gets on the ground, he's certainly a competitive beast. And I know in talking to Darren, he said he could see him developing into a Shane Mumford type down the track.
So we throw things back to Melbourne once again, and their pick is already in. We'll leave it to Gil to announce.
Pick 42, Melbourne Football Club. Mitchell King, Murray Bushrangers, Wodonga Football and Sports Club.
Gone for the big tall forward, Melbourne. He's can also play in the ruck, Mitch King, so a versatile type of player. Got a little bit of development to do, so I wouldn't expect Demon fans to see him running out and having an impact like an Angus Brayshaw did this year, early days. But you've just got to be patient with the big fellas, because if you do get them right and you do put the right development into them, they can pay back in absolute spades down the track.
And given Melbourne has such a big influence on tonight's draft, they can afford to be patient with a couple of their players?
I think they're building a really nice list now, Melbourne. You've got some really good class there in, like I said, in guys like Angus Brayshaw, Nathan Jones doing a fantastic job of leading that footy club under what's been a tough few years for him. And you see what Paul Roos and Simon Goodwin are starting to put together, and the results they're producing on field. We're certainly seeing the improvement in that footy club that we all hope to see.
North Melbourne having a little bit of thinking time here over their pick number 43. And they've just been granted a time extension.
Yeah, so a couple of guys still left on the board here. A local product, Oleg Markov, out of North Adelaide. Do some pretty freakish things up forward, and a beautiful size, 188 centimetres, and fantastic leap. I don't imagine he could be too far away. Blake Hardwick, another medium forward. He kicked bags of 8, 10 and 12 during the year for the Eastern Rangers. Another guy that surely couldn't be far away from having his name read out also.
You'd be pretty happy if your name was read out by the North Melbourne Football Club, just given where they're at as a club. They seem to be so close to challenging for a flag. They were obviously very close in 2015, and a good club with some pretty good players going forward.
Yeah, and they're another one, the old shinboner spirit that we hear spoken about a little bit. Plenty of talk around the Sydney Swans culture. North Melbourne are very fortunate to have guys like Brent Harvey still running around, and Drew Petrie that drag those young guys up to the high level.
We should mention that there are different amounts of players you're able to have on your primary list. Different clubs will go in with different amounts in 2016. North Melbourne is set to use 5 picks tonight, and they'll go in with 39 on their primary next year. Yeah, and we've got, we just see up on the screen here, we've got the bid pending on another academy player out of the Brisbane Lions, Corey Wagner. He was outstanding for the Allies on grand final day this year. He's a very, very classy player, got great leg speed, and I didn't think he would have been too far behind Ben Keys in being bid on. So interesting to see what the Brisbane Lions do here, and whether they've got enough points in the bank to get Corey Wagner onto their list. Real genuine accumulator of the football too, Corey Wagner. So would complement Brisbane's midfield. You said earlier with Jed Adcock going out, they'll certainly be looking to strengthen that area. James Aish departing. So this is very, very interesting and intriguing to see what the Brisbane Lions do. Will the clubs have a general feel on whether these bids are going to be matched or not? Some of them are in hope, you feel?
Yeah, it's. I think once you get to this stage of the draft, you're probably a little bit unsure as to what's going to unfold. But the pick is in, and no doubt we won't be far away from hearing whether that has been matched or not.
Pick 43, Corey Wagner. Academy nominee for Brisbane Lions reserves Sandgate Junior Football Club.
So there's a prime example of what we were talking about earlier, Sarah, with the academies working. There's a player that didn't end up at the Brisbane Lions, and he's been developed fantastically well by Luke Curran and the guys out of the Brisbane Lions Academy, and I'm sure North Melbourne will reap the rewards of that development in Corey as 2016 unfolds.
The reigning premiers are next, Hawthorn with pick number 44 in this year's draft.
Yeah, it gets, you can see them looking very, very hard into the monitor, and they'd be assessing what they can get, and it's really about need at this stage of the draft now. They'd be looking to fill some holes in their list.
And the Hawks pick is in.
Pick 44, Hawthorn Football Club. Blake Hardwick, Eastern Rangers, Beverly Hills Junior Football Club.
We didn't think he'd be far away. He's not having to travel too far from home either, Blake. Just an absolute goal-kicking machine. He's a hard worker. He's actually one of the few young men that have been out in the workforce with his father, working over the last couple of years, but 56 goals this year at TAC Cup level is just an incredible achievement, and already adds to the firepower of the Bruce and Gunstons and Roughheads and these sorts of guys, so the Hawks have done well.
What an amazing opportunity for a young man to join the mighty Hawthorn Football Club that has been so powerful in the past decade or so. Port Adelaide are next with pick number 45, and pretty decisive. The pick's in already, and we can throw things back to Gil.
Pick 45, Port Adelaide Football Club. Aidan Johnson, Bendigo Pioneers, Moama Football Club.
I grew up in Moama, so I'll have to have a little shout out to Echuca Moama on the Murray River on the border there, and another win for the Bendigo Pioneers, who are having a pretty good draft night.
Absolutely, and the crowd pretty happy. I think Port Adelaide might have someone to rival Eddie Betts over here in his goal-kicking ability there, Aidan Johnson. He's exciting. You'll see him feature on plenty of highlight reels, and I think in tandem with Jake Neeb when he gets back and plays, they could be pretty dangerous up forward for the power.
We can move things straight to the Melbourne Football Club with pick 46, and Gil has the announcement.
Pick 46, Melbourne Football Club. Liam Hewlett, Dandenong Stingrays, Seaford Junior Football Club.
194 centimetre forward.
Yeah, to the Dandenong Stingrays. So they've had an outstanding season, the Stingrays, and I think they'll probably be the club that has the most drafted of any club in Australia, I would have thought, tonight. So Mark Wheeler here, the regional manager from the Stingrays, and as I mentioned before, Craig Black. So celebrating with Jacob Wiedering and Kieran Collins, a couple of boys here. But Liam's he's an exciting prospect. He's been somewhat inconsistent at times over the course of the year, but when he's on song, he's got a fantastic set of hands. Very good lead-up type player. So another one that'll take a little bit of time to develop, but geez, they're hard to come by, the tall forwards.
The Brisbane Lions are next up. We're just waiting on a decision from them for pick number 47.
Yeah, still plenty of talent left on the board. Another multicultural player that we certainly hope to see feature a little bit later on is Gutch Newen, the ruckman out of the Dandenong Stingrays. So whether they go down that path and look to hit up a ruckman. Another one, Sam Skinner, is a tall defender that did his ACL earlier in the year. I think he could be one of the steals of the draft as well. So interesting, really interesting here. We can see Brisbane pondering this, and the great Peter Schwab there at the table. He's has certainly had an impact in at the Brisbane Lions there.
20 seconds left. Time is ticking for the Lions, and it has been extended. So still mulling over what to do with this pick number 47. As you said, there's so much talent at this stage during the draft, and we've seen some great players picked up late. You can't be flippant about it.
No, absolutely. And we just saw Craig Lambert on screen there. The importance of welfare at footy clubs these days is absolute paramount. And I know Brisbane have made that a focus to certainly look after their young players and keep them as happy as they possibly can. Craig's reputation and record in his time at the GWS Giants was certainly extremely well respected in the industry.
How much access do the clubs get to the players before the draft in terms of interviewing them and chatting, learning their personalities and learning what kinds of characters that they may be recruiting into their clubs?
Well, they'll know absolutely everything about them, I can guarantee you that. They interview these players countless times throughout the year. They do home visits. Sometimes a player will even go into the footy club to have a visit in their environment, whether it's with the senior coach or the recruiting staff. So they'll certainly know exactly what they're bringing into their football club, and they'll have done their homework to know what type of person they are and what type of person is going to represent their brand.
And like you said earlier, with the non-Victorian clubs, the go-home factor is obviously in play at various stages throughout a player's career. It's important to get someone you think that may be a long-term player as well.
Yeah, you're certainly looking at character, I think, for when you're moving players into state. So this will be interesting.
Pick 47, Brisbane Lions, Sam Skinner, Gippsland Power, Newborough Junior Football Club.
Sensational result. Just a brilliant young man, Sam Skinner. I know the players that were able to travel with him over to Florida with the NAB AFL Academy earlier this year just absolutely love him, and he certainly provides them with plenty of highlights and gems along the way. So great result, super aggressive. Actually played on Tom Hawkins in some match practice over there in Florida, and Tom's feedback at the end of that session was glowing of Sam, so well done to Brisbane.
Pick 48, Western Bulldogs, Bailey Williams, Glenelg, Brighton District and Old Scholars.
The South Australian crowd, plenty to cheer about tonight.
Yeah, and this is the beauty, like I say, of the draft. Bailey Williams is probably not someone that was mentioned a hell of a lot over the course of the year, but they've got a knack of doing this, the Bulldogs. We just saw earlier pick Marcus Adams, who's a mature age player, and obviously Bailey Williams, who gives them some flexibility in a number of different roles as well.
The Richmond Football Club have the next pick in this national draft. We can see their coach Damien Hardwick there, and the pick is already in.
And there we see it on screen, the bid pending, another father-son. So Bailey Rice, who's the son of both St Kilda and Carlton player Dean Rice. So Bailey actually nominated the St Kilda Footy Club. So this is going to be interesting. Now, if St Kilda decide not to match the bid, then Carlton do have the opportunity, even though Bailey didn't nominate Carlton, they do have the opportunity to step in here and take Bailey should the Saints decide not to match.
What kind of player is he? Is he similar to the old man?
He's got a bit more leg speed than the old man, Sarah. He's lightning quick. Bailey, certainly a sub 3 second 20 metre sprint. Half back, quite a good user of the footy, and a strong and powerful type.
Okay, the pick is in. It's over to Gil.
Pick 49, St Kilda, Bailey Rice, father-son nominee, Dandenong Stingrays, Endeavour Hills Junior Football Club.
This is a little bit of the romance of the draft. I think it's outstanding to see father-son prospects be able to continue the history and the tradition at a footy club. The one that hasn't bobbed up yet is Jack Silvani, which will be interesting as well to see at what stage in the draft he features. But great result for St Kilda there, and a very happy Rice family that he'll continue some family tradition.
Absolutely. One of the great things about the game of Australian rules football is we throw things back to the Richmond Football Club, who have another crack at securing some of the best young talent in the land.
They unsuccessfully bidded on a few quite early in the draft, the Tigers, and they've been unlucky and missed out on Bailey again. But it is good to see Richmond Footy Club keeping the other clubs honest as well, and putting in realistic bids as to the level of talent that the players possess.
So Richmond with pick number 50 as the clock ticks down on their selection. Would they be looking to add another goal-kicking option?
Possibly, and Mitch Brown's a name I know that has been mentioned quite a few times, a mature age player that spent some time at Geelong, played at the Bombers through the NAB Challenge series, so I'm sure at some stage his name will certainly bob up because he's a ready-made player. So wouldn't be the worst thing Richmond could do to look at someone like Mitch.
What about for the kids that aren't so lucky tonight? There'll be plenty out there that are so nervous right now, and your heart goes out to them just sitting there. Their futures are very much on the line. It doesn't end with tonight.
No, and that's the beauty of where AFL football's at the moment, is the opportunity down the track. I mean, mentioned him just before, Marcus Adams, player that's that's played some really good quality state league footy over in WA and been given a chance, and we continually see it every year. So I think to where the AFL's evolved many moons ago, if you didn't get picked up at 18 years of age, you're probably going to struggle after that to get an opportunity. But the nature of footy now is to get the players in, and if they can impact for 2 or 3 years, then they've done their job.
Okay, here is the Richmond Football Club's pick number 50.
Pick 50, Richmond Football Club. Oleg Markov, North Adelaide Football Club, Jeps Cross.
You're nodding your head and have a big smile on your face. You must be happy with that one.
Yeah, and again, Oleg tested in 2014 at the National Combine and got overlooked. Came back again this year and was outstanding. We know the family background, Dmitry Markov, the world champion pole vaulter. He did some really exciting things, Oleg, in the national championships, particularly on Amy Stadium over here in South Australia. He can produce some very, very special acts on a football ground. So Richmond did go for the forward, and they've gone for the younger prospect in Oleg Markov.
The Sydney Football Club debating what to do with pick number 51 in this draft. They're going to go into season 2016 with a list of 38 players, so they'll have just the 3 selections tonight. We were talking a little earlier about how there is a bit of movement in terms of the amount of players on a list you must have.
Yeah, and look, you can't argue that Sydney have done a brilliant job over the last few years. Kinnear Beatson, outstanding at the helm, and with Ricky Barham and Mick Agresta as well. Doing a great job with their recruiting, and been around for a while, Kin, and doesn't often get them wrong.
Pick 51, Sydney Swans. Tyrone Leonardis, Northern Knights, Bundoora Junior Football Club.
A Victorian boy heading up to Sydney.
Yeah, smooth mover too, this kid. He's got absolute silky skills. It's just his speed and his ability to step in and out of traffic and break the play open is some really key attributes to what Tyrone possesses, and probably didn't expect him to get out that far, to be honest.
The Gold Coast Suns with pick number 52, and it's in already, so we'll throw things back to Gil.
Pick 52, Gold Coast Suns. Mackenzie Willis, Kingborough Tigers Junior Football Club.
We see Scotty Clayton there. We know he's links back to Tasmania, and he's grabbed another one. So fantastic, and again, a young emerging club that once they get all their players back on the park, I think they'll be one of the bolters up the ladder next year, the Gold Coast.
We can see the Essendon Football Club's brains trust, including new coach John Worsfold. They've got the next pick number 53. Of course, he mentioned the draft sanctions as part of the drug saga that they've had recently. And then, of course, before that, there were the compromise drafts. So it's Essendon's first real crack at a draft for about 4 or 5 years.
You know, I think it's it'll be a fresh start for them too. I know the guys, Adrian Dodoro and Merv King, were excited to get into this year's draft.
Now, this is one for the Essendon-Carlton rivalry, a bid on Jack Silvani.
Yeah, well, couldn't have been too far away, I wouldn't have thought. We saw Jack just absolutely tear a game apart over in WA, and geez, did the media grab hold of it and run with it? So, which fantastic for Jack. He's got a long way to go, but going to be an exciting player and plays at the other end of the ground.
Pick 53, Carlton Football Club. Jack Silvani, father-son, Oakley Chargers, Xavier College.
That felt like a world record. It did not take Carlton very long at all to match Essendon there.
No, because look, once you get to this stage, Sarah, it doesn't actually cost the club too much in terms of the points and those sorts of things when you're going through the bidding process this late in the draft. And great for Stephen Silvani. Would have been tough for him over the last few months, but gets his son there, and I'm sure the Silvani family be very, very happy back at home.
Okay, back to the Bombers now.
Pick 54, Essendon Football Club. Mitch Brown, Sandringham Old Mentonians.
And Mitch Brown played 3 games in the NAB Challenge for Essendon. After a really good VFL season this year, has really sprung into calculations.
Yeah, there were a number of clubs interested in Mitch Brown as well, and I think if we have to look at a silver lining to come out of what has happened at the Essendon Footy Club, it was that Mitch Brown got an opportunity through the NAB Challenge, performed well, and it set his season up really well at the Sandringham Zebras down there in the VFL, and great to see Mitch get another chance, and I'm sure he'll be familiar with a number of faces when he walks through the door next week.
Important for the club to land a versatile player, a swing man, after we've seen the exit of Jake Carlisle, so significant there for the Essendon Football Club, and great to see a player get another chance in the current environment. Well, there's still plenty more to come here on the 2015 NAB National Draft. We're here in Adelaide. Some dreams have come true tonight, wonderful stories, and there's hopefully plenty more to come. Don't go away.
Are you with me? I wanna dance by water beneath the Mexican sky. Drink some margaritas by
And welcome back to the Adelaide Convention Centre as the NAB AFL Draft moves towards its conclusion. Now let's rejoin Sarah Jones and Mick Ablett as we enter round 4.
And we look there at the happy faces of the Carlton Football Club, Mick, after they've just taken Jack Silvani, the son, of course, of Stephen, and a wonderful story for the football club as they look to the future.
Yeah, I don't know how Sauce would have gone walking down Lygon Street if he hadn't matched that bid, Sarah. So,
Silvani playing for Essendon?
Absolutely. But no, they would be excited down at Carlton, as well as we're just looking around the room here and seeing some boys in their new club polos that plenty of handshaking and boys catching up with each other, realising that not only is it them, but their mates have had their dreams come true too.
And Carlton have picked 55 here, so we wait to see what they look to do to add to their list in what is such a crucial time for the development of the club, a new coach and a new direction. It will take time, and they know that.
Yeah, no doubt. Look, they turned over 15 players this year, which is incredible. And look, you'd expect that to happen over the next couple of years, but Stephen's track record in what he did with the GWS Giants and building that list, you'd certainly have plenty of faith in him to turn the Carlton Footy Club around. And I think for the AFL in general, we need the Blues up and about. The big power clubs, you want to see them up and about, and you want to see the crowds pouring through the gates.
Good discussion happening here, and we can see Brendan Bolton really driving the discussion. We've talked about the relationship between the senior coach and the recruiting staff and how collaborative it is.
Yeah, no doubt, and there's a couple of the guys that are still on the board. James Parsons, a 189 outside midfielder from the Eastern Rangers. Nick O'Kearney, an inside mid from the Calder Cannons at 181. Callum Moore's another one at the Calder Cannons. He's an incredible athlete. He's got a super set of hands. I'd be surprised if he didn't get an opportunity, whether that's tonight or on a rookie list. But a couple of guys still sitting there at home, hoping to hear their name called out. But as we see here, time extended.
Fantastic vision, isn't it? Seeing them debating whatever it is about a specific player up against another, and you think those players sitting at home just hoping that it's them.
Yeah, and I think this gives the general public a great insight into what actually goes into making these decisions. A lot of the time here, the life of a recruiter is fantastic and they get to fly around the country and all those sorts of things, but I can tell you there wouldn't be too many harder working people in a footy club than the recruiting staff. They're on the road, they spend a lot of time away from their families, and some lonely times as well in hotel rooms in all parts of the country. So great for them for this night to arrive, and I'm sure they'll celebrate accordingly when it's all over.
Okay, the pick is in. Pick number 55.
Pick 55, Carlton, pass.
That was a lot of discussion for deciding to pass. What would be the rationale there as we look to Fremantle having the next pick?
I think they're probably just tossing up whether these days, I mean, if you draft a player, it's generally a 2-year contract. whether that player is still there, or a couple of players might be there at the rookie draft, where you're only required to give them a 12-month contract. So they might be hoping somebody slips through tonight, and they can obviously get them a little bit cheaper in a couple of days' time through the rookie draft. But that does effectively mean that Carlton are out of the draft now. Obviously, once you pass on a particular pick, the night's over, so they can put their feet up, the Blues.
Pick 55, Fremantle Football Club. Samuel Collins, Box Hill Hawks, Don Vale.
So another player there that's a mature age player that's getting his opportunity at AFL level. So I hope for the young men that are sitting at home watching this broadcast that haven't been fortunate enough to have their name read out yet, that they do realise that if it doesn't happen for them tonight, the journey still does continue and there are opportunities down the track.
We're heading to the Sydney Swans next for pick number 56.
So this will be their third choice.
And their pick is in, so we throw things to Gil.
Pick 56, Sydney Swans. Jordan Dawson, Sturt and Robe Football Clubs.
There we go. There's and another one as well. So this is what we spoke about earlier in the broadcast, Sarah, with some mature age players getting an opportunity. Jordan Dawson was a young man that progressed through the under-18s to reserves level. So he's in fact is 18 years of age. I should apologise to Jordan, but someone that didn't follow the traditional pathway through the under-18 championships like many of the boys have here tonight, but got a really good tank, a 14 beeper, so he's certainly got plenty to work with when Sydney get him up there.
The West Coast Eagles are next with pick 57, and it's already in.
Pick 57, West Coast Eagles. Kurt Mutimer, Dandenong Stingrays, Narry North Foxes Junior Football Club.
Kurt will go over and join Tom Lamb over there, a Stingray that got taken last year in the draft. They're doing a fantastic job. It's a little bit scary what they're building over there, the West Coast Eagles, with that list. It's a young list, and when we look at what they did this year and their ability to bring back some key defenders next year, it's pretty exciting over in the West.
The Collingwood Football Club pick 58, and here's Gil.
Pick 58, Collingwood Football Club. Tom Phillips, Oakley Chargers, Beverly Hills Junior Football Club.
-19-year-old, so a great example of that rule in the TAC Cup, which does allow 19-year-olds to come back and play if they're not quite ready in their 18th year, and he was unbelievably outstanding for the Oakley Chargers in the grand final. Plays a midfielder, quite tall, 186, so very, very exciting to see a 19-year-old get an opportunity.
And we can finally welcome the Geelong Football Club to the draft. Pick 59, their pick is in. They had an incredibly active trade period, which means there've only been minor players tonight playing a late role.
Ryan Gardner, Bernie Dockers, Redpar Football Club.
The Cats have a history of smart picks late in the draft. Is this going to be another one?
Yeah, he is. He's a really athletic, talented player, Ryan Gardner, out of Tasmania. He was a late call-up into the Allies game on grand final day, and I know there was a number of people around the country at AFL club level that were excited to see him run out. Really good get by the Cats, and to be able to bolster your list with a key defender at this point in the draft is exciting for Cats fans.
To GWS with pick number 60.
Pick 60, GWS Giants, pass.
Okay, so the Giants passing there, which effectively ends their 2015 draft night.
They've had a brilliant night, GWS, and I'm sure Gubby Allen and Adrian Caruso and the guys, Leon Cameron, be absolutely ecstatic with they've got 4 homegrown products, and those boys will assimilate into their footy club very, very easily.
The Sydney Swans with pick number 60.
Pick 60, Sydney Swans, pass.
So we're going to see a few clubs passing at this late stage in the draft, aren't we?
Yeah, and like you mentioned earlier, whether clubs run with a few less on their list, giving themselves an opportunity to upgrade rookies throughout the year, whether they are looking for something in the rookie draft on Thursday or the pre-season draft even. So, yeah, it's we get to this stage and the night starts to wind down a little bit, but it's been brilliant so far, and hopefully everyone in the room and everyone watching the broadcast enjoying watching the next set of superstars come through.
North Melbourne with pick number 60.
Pick 60, North Melbourne, Declan Mountford, Claremont and North Mulberry Football Clubs, Albany.
He was a star at the NAB AFL Combine, Declan Mountford. He's got that real, genuine speed endurance mix, 2.9 seconds over 20 metres and a 15.2 beat, backed it up with a 10.043 Now that's it. To produce those sorts of numbers in a jam-packed schedule that was the AFL Combine is says a lot about Declan's athletic ability, and averaged 24 disposals at Colts level in WA as well, so good pickup.
The Fremantle Football Club with pick number 61.
You see David Wall sitting at the table there doing a fantastic job, the son of Robert Walls.
Pick 61, Fremantle Football Club, Shane Yarran, Subiaco Lions and Armidale Junior Football Club.
Shane's a mature age player, 26-year-old, out of the Subiaco Footy Club. He's performed, when you're talking ready-made players, and I know as we saw Ross Lyon there on screen, they are searching for that elusive premiership, and Shane Yarran, if he gets his body right, gets the knee right, he could set up a pretty potent attack down there with Sonny Walters and also Hayden Ballantyne. So his leg speed will be pretty handy over there on the big deck, I would imagine.
Okay, we move straight on to the West Coast Eagles with pick number 62.
Pick 62, West Coast Eagles, Matthew Allen, Glenelg and North Gambia Junior Football Club.
Powerful tall forward, Matthew Allen. He was, we spoke earlier about Kieran Collins beating 99% of his opponents. Matty Allen in a game down at Simmons Stadium was one of the few that probably got Kieran a little bit early, and he's explosive off the mark, brilliant out on the lead, and got a really safe set of hands. Elite cricketing background too, so another get for the AFL, which certainly makes us happy that we're getting the first choice athletes.
Okay, the pick is in for the Hawthorn Football Club and number 63.
Pick 63, Hawthorn Football Club, pass.
The Hawks are out.
And that throws things over to Collingwood with 63.
Still some real genuine talent on the board, but like I said, I mean, you'd expect approximately.
How good is that? That is just unbridled joy and enthusiasm.
Look, he's tearing up
and he has teared up.
Look at him, that's great, isn't it? It's just down the road, it just works out perfectly.
And see the Brisbane Lions jumper in the background there on the wall. I think that'll come down by tomorrow. He's going to be a Saint for life.
So that sat there on the edge of their seat for 40 selections. I'm sure they probably didn't think he was going in the top 10. Then you start hoping, and then you start, once it gets to a certain number, you start worrying.
Yeah, that's right. And particularly when your mum's there rubbing your back saying, it's going to be okay, someone's going to call your name soon. But fantastic emotion. I got a little tear in my eye when I saw that. And that would have been replicated across the country tonight.
Yep,
no doubt.
63 players
Exactly right.
selected so far. Fantastic for our game.
All right, round 4 of this year's draft has just completed, and this is the way that it played out.
Yeah, you look across there. A lot of clubs are starting to pass as well, Jason. So that's just the nature of where it gets to and where clubs are at with their list and all those things, what they're looking to do. But you can see through there and look, you mentioned Yarra and the 26-year-old shifter.
Yeah, terrific to see. Good to see Tom Phillips get a go. He's a 19-year-old youngster that had a brilliant year with the Oakley Chargers. So improved on last year. He dominated through the final series. A left-footer, prolific ball winner across half-back or through the midfield. And Matthew Allen, another left-footer that played as a lead-up forward for SA at national championship level. And again, a boy that had to make a choice. He's a talented cricketer, been offered the cricket opportunities. In the finish, he wanted to invest his efforts into trying to be a professional AFL player, and Matthew Allen gets that chance.
Well, let's have a look at the Collingwood Football Club now. This is a club that did an awful lot in terms of trade week. They were very, very active in terms of getting players from other clubs, and they recruited a number of good names. But let's see what sort of players they've picked up here at the draft. What can you tell me about these 3 youngsters?
Yeah, young Cedar is one that's, he is a bit of a smoky, I'd suggest, to go that early. He's a boy from Marsland College that plays at the Northern Knights. Lovely size boy. He was the best player at school level, certainly for Marsland. They won the championship at that level, and a boy that they saw a lot of potential in. We mentioned Phillips just then as the left-footed 19-year-old that had a great year. And then Wills again. Look, the team only needs to probably see that 1 or 2 games that's pretty special to be able to take a player. So he's one that wasn't tested even in amongst the 200. So great to see boys get up that would be way back there amongst the 1,500 nominated, but someone at Collingwood has seen enough in him to give him that chance.
Of course, they've already picked up Treloar and also Aish, who are virtually like, high draft picks anyway that are good and ready to go. I mean, Treloar could be an absolute star.
Oh, well, he already is a star. He racks up 30 plus on a regular basis already in the competition. And one player that has just been selected by Eston is Yeston Eads at pick number 64, moved over from Western Australia, went to Ballarat, went to St Pat's, part of the program there, was able to get things together for himself, part of the AFL Academy, and it's a great selection and it's a great effort from Yeston Eads to be able to be picked up.
Absolutely wonderful for this young Indigenous boy. He come from a troubled background, to be honest, and he just needed a change in probably lifestyle. He went to St Pat's at Ballarat into an Indigenous program there, and the change in this young man has been dramatic in 12 months. Fantastic story to see him get his chance. The changes in his life have been dramatic, and he's a real role model for Indigenous boys. The way he played, he pushed up and played 1 game at VFL level and got in the Liston votes. He's got some special ability with his slip, though, his ability to get through space with that sidestep, and he's got the high ball drop. He's quite a spectacular player, and well done to Yeston Eads for really making a difference in the way he set his life up.
Great story. I'll ask you a very simple question. Shifter, you know everything there is about these kids. How many players with the first name Yeston have ever played AFL football?
He's the first.
I had a feeling he might be the first.
In 2,289 that have been taken in the 30
there
years.
You go.
That was the number I had to throw in, and probably 60 odd tonight. Yeah, first one.
An unusual name and a fantastic story.
Good to see Ben Crocker get picked up too.
You like him, don't you?
That's a bit of a steal at pick 65 for Collingwood. He's a midfielder, but I've seen him play his best footy as a marking forward, as strange as that sounds. He's that difficult matchup for the opposition because he's got great hands. Pick 65 is a really good pickup by Collingwood there.
And then Sam Menegola, who had some time as a rookie at Hawthorn, then at Freo, and then come back this year to have a brilliant senior year. Averaged 27 disposals as a midfielder, elite endurance. He tested the house down with our draft combine in WA, and he'll get his 3rd chance. But I think he's more ready now at his age, in his 20s.
And then every now and then we see these great stories of persistence, don't we, when players just refuse to give up. Well, let's go back and recap round 2. And just cast our minds back to these are picks that you have to hit the target with as well. I mean, you cannot waste picks in the 20s and in particular up to about pick 40 because you just don't get that many good picks as a club these days.
One of the ones that stands out for me there, Jason, is pick 33, Mitchell Hibbert from Clarence in Tasmania. He's had some injury setbacks through shoulder and knee problems the last 2 years. He's a 19-year-old. I actually predicted to go in the top 15. I think he's that good. He's going to come in and have an impact for North Melbourne straight away next year as a wingman, half-back, half-forward. He's 192 centimetres. Fantastic pickup for North Melbourne.
And there were some players through this section that we actually rated probably a little bit higher.
Exactly.
So we're discussing that. So therefore some clubs have picked up some players that we thought possibly could have gone between 10 and 20, have pushed out to the 30s. Harley Ballick being one there at 38.
Yeah, he's a fantastic pickup for Fremantle. He's going to complement their already big body mids, and I liked Riley Bonner, that pickup for Port Adelaide, late in the 30s. That's a real steal for them.
The latest player picked up, Nathan Broad, is another 22-year-old that matured in the waffle at senior level this year, and he had this pick-me moment at our state combine again. He tested the best of all of the players in the repeat sprints. He looks so fit and well and ready. He just matured this year, started to really win the ball and rebound off half-back. He can play lockdown roles as well, so he's ready to play next year.
That's a real win, isn't it, Jason? Because the draft day isn't for everybody, and it does take some players time to be able to develop into their bodies, develop their game, and all these sort of things. And the opportunities still come.
Couldn't agree more. You mentioned Shane Yarran before, the good story that he is. The Fremantle Dockers is an interesting list as well. They're going to have to transition some players at some stage. We know that Matty Palic has decided to go on once again, but there's the 4 players up to this point in time that the Fremantle Dockers have drafted.
I think they'll be pretty happy with Tucker and Ballick to get him at that level. Tucker, an All-Australian from last year, to go at 27, and Ballick, a star this year in the midfield for Vic Metro. They'd be wrapped in those. Some people might have had him in the top 20 without a doubt in the world, and that's why it was considered a very even draft across the clubs, but certainly some talent there.
A lot of discussions about Lockie Weller as well, and he signed an extended deal, so another young player they picked up last year. Was a crowd favourite when he debuted. He's a good-looking young man, and certainly a favourite over there in the West. So he's another young player who will develop, along with a few others that they drafted last year. So they've got a good mix now, Freo, of starting to build a young list underneath the talent they've got at the top.
We are starting to get late in the draft, and there would be a lot of players that nominated Sando that are very nervous at this point in time. And the cold, hard reality is that some of them won't get called tonight.
Yeah, it is, Jason. It can be heartbreaking for those young men, because we've mentioned about the players who did get their names called out tonight and realising a childhood dream. It's not the end of the road. There's still a rookie draft on Friday. So many premiership players have come through the rookie draft. If your name doesn't get called out on the rookie draft, there's still an opportunity to go back and play really well at VFL level. Go back and play really well at SANFL level, or the waffle. Look for other opportunities. Go different pathways. James Podsiadly debuted at AFL level at 28 years of age and was a premiership player. So keep the dream alive. Use it as almost an inspiration to really push yourself and be back here next year and get your name called out.
There are some great stories, and we hope to hear a few more along those lines. Well, at pick number 26, the Western Bulldogs called out the name Kieran Collins. Brad Johnson nearly knocked me off my chair. He was that excited by that pick. And I'm sure Kieran's excited as well as he catches up with Ben Dixon.
He sure is excited, Jason. The Bulldogs said if he was around at the mid-20s, they were going to take him, and we're just talking off air, Kieran, and you're pretty pumped to go to the Bulldogs.
Yeah, definitely very pumped, and it's going to be a great experience down there with Bevo, and the Doggies are up on the rise, so hopefully become a good experience and play some good footy there.
It's a long wait for you, though. I mean, mid-20s, it was a long, drawn-out process, especially the top 10. You had 11, I think, home interviews, so a number of clubs were interested in 7 at the Combine, so it's still a daunting process, isn't it?
Yeah, it is very daunting. I guess waiting through the mid-teens, and then also with another Kieran in the draft, it sort of threw things out. So heard that name, and Dad got up and about, and they said the last name, so dropped a bit, and then I guess just waited till the Doggies pick and heard my name get called out.
At the Combine, we know all the testing takes place, but underneath, when they do the interview process, that in itself is pretty daunting, isn't it? Because Carlton, I know, had nearly every soldier there, putting you through the paces. Other clubs are a bit more relaxed at it, but it's an intense process.
Yeah, it is definitely, and a bit of fun as well at the same time, but I guess daunting with all the, say with Carlton, we had Sauce, our head coach, our head list manager and stuff like that, so it's a really daunting experience, but also fun at the same time.
A few of your mates drafted today, got their preferred club. Have you had a chat to them?
I haven't really had time. I guess with Weeder's a good mate going to Carlton. He's been, I guess, hopping to interview, so I haven't really had much time to talk to him.
Well, you go and enjoy it because you've had a big night, and I'm glad you're going to the Bulldogs. You said you're pumped, and I'm sure Luke Beveridge is happy to roll you out next year. Well done.
Definitely. Thank you. Thanks, Dicko.
Thanks, Dicko. Well, the Cats have finally entered the draft. They've jumped in the 60s. I think pick 66 might have been their first, but at pick 69, Sando, a young Queensland boy by the name of Wiley Buzzer.
Yeah, you mentioned about Yeston being the first Yeston to probably play AFL football. I don't think there's been too many Wileys play AFL football, but I really like Buzzer. He's a big, strong power forward. Big dreadlocks too, leads hard at the footy, throws himself into every contest. Really smart pick, 19-year-old, so he didn't get drafted last year. But really matured this year, had some impact for Queensland in the championships. Mature player ready to play.
I can just see Hutto or Dwayne, when this guy gets his chance, they are going to go nuts with that surname.
It's funny because I had a few mates that still live back home in Queensland and have a bit to do with the footy that pumped this kid up. They said he can play.
Colt figure, no doubt. 5 goals for Queensland against the NT, and then he played for the Allies on the G and kicked 3 grand final day in the All-Star game. Yeah. Lovely kid, powerful brute, and a rugby league background as well.
So pick 66, pick 69, pick 70, all going Geelong's way. They've had to do their business at the back end of the draft, and we're up to the last couple of picks, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. And Chris Scott's probably just been sitting in the back there twiddling his thumbs waiting for Geelong to have their selections. But, the last couple of selections, and obviously, as you mentioned before, Jason, nervous time for all those young men at home, just waiting. But the draft's not finished. There's still the rookie draft that will happen. As I mentioned before, plenty of premiership players have come through the rookie draft. So,
pick 71, Geelong. Pass.
What an anti-climax, Jason. Yeah.
That was a clap for a pass, I think.
I think Gillen's just about had enough of coming out and saying things like that, but we are virtually at the tail end of the draft. It's interesting. I mean, we shouldn't, if you're a Cats fan, don't worry, because they are, again, like the Pies, one of the more active clubs in the trading period, and they picked up some established players that have gone down there. Then they got Zach Smith from the Gold Coast, didn't they? Lockie Henderson's gone down there. Paddy Dangerfield, of course. So they've done okay out of the trade period.
And Selwood too from West
Coast.
That's right. So really promising trade period. So not much activity tonight in the draft for the Cats, but expect some finals footy
and more out of someone like a Reece Stanley, who I saw last night and looks very, very fit as well. So they've got a fair bit of talent down there, the Cats.
All right, Shifter, let's take a look at rounds 5, 6 and 7 of the draft.
Yeah, you're seeing the mature age players come into it here. We mentioned Menegola and Broad. Crocker then, surprising that this versatile player from the Oakley Chargers, a dual premiership player at TAC Cup level, got his chance. Yeston Eads, the Indigenous boy from Swan District, great story. And then Rupert Wills was a surprise choice to Collingwood, but of course played some VFL footy.
Just a couple of picks in round 6, including that Wiley Buzzer.
Yeah, and Michael Hart, we haven't mentioned, he's a former Collingwood player, rookie player, had some injuries there, but had a great year in the VFL. A dual winner of the best and fairest there at Coburg, and great to see him get that chance. And then this is, I suppose, the Smoky.
That'll be a trivia question answer, won't it? The last player picked in the draft.
Yeah, Matthew Hayball is a boy from the Roxby Downs that come down, played some Colts footy, under 18 footy in SA, but Stephen Wells has seen enough in him.
All right, so that wraps up the draft. We'll take a quick break, come back, and we'll hear from all of the clubs. We'll speak to a lot of the coaches and see, we'll get their thoughts on exactly how the draft panned out for their club.
Pick 40, Secure the Football Club. Brandon White.
For me, the moment of the 2015 NAB AFL Draft. The family and friends of young Brandon White, who went to St Kilda and picked number 40. And that's the scenes from the lounge room down at Berwick. How good. Well, that does bring goosebumps.
It does, doesn't it?
They'd sat on the edge of their chairs, hoping and praying to hear the name Brandon White, maybe starting to worry it wasn't going to come, and then it came.
Even the emotion from Brandon himself at the end, just that relief, and he let it all out, which was great to see.
And the family would have debated about whether we can allow the cameras in, and are you sure you're going to get picked up? And then, as you said, Jason, gets out to pick 40, you start to get the sweaty palms, and of course that magical moment, which the family will savour forever, the moment his name got called out.
There were tears of joy in that room, weren't there?
Absolutely.
Fantastic to see.
Absolutely outstanding. So the draft is over. Let's recap the top 10 selections. We knew the way it was going to kick off. Jacob Wiedering went at number 1. Josh Shackey number 2. Callum Mills was the first academy player. Melbourne bid for him first up, and Sydney obviously matched that bid. Clayton Oliver's the one that really jumped up. He not just jumped into the top 10, he jumped up to number 4. Darcy Parish at 5. Aaron Francis at 6. So the Bombers getting a couple of great picks inside the top 10. Jacob Hopper going to GWS, another academy player. Calamar Chi to Gold Coast. Sam Wiedemann, Melbourne, with a couple of picks inside the top 10 as well. And one of the twins, Harry Mackay, rounding off the top 10.
Yeah, look, it's a strong top 10. Really, a lot of key position players, as we've said, and these are the feeder clubs. It starts with the Dandenong Stingrays, who had the number 1 tonight, but they had 6 drafted tonight. Strong performance from them throughout the year.
That's their 5th number 1 over the 30-year history of the draft, which is quite an amazing effort. And well done to their talent manager, Mark Wheeler. Craig Black, their coach of Dandenong. He himself was drafted at choice 55 way back in 1997, Craig Black. Had some injuries, was at Carlton, and it was a very good player at the next level down. So it's a great effort by that club, and their task of developing youngsters for AFL has been a very successful one this year.
You can just see the players, the family, the club officials all mixing now, all the happy stories being told, the pats on the back, the congratulations. Well, if you've just happened to tune in and you don't know exactly how it panned out, we're going to take you through the selections of each and every club in alphabetical order. We'll start off with the Adelaide Crows. Picks 11 and 17. A couple of handy picks to have, 2 inside the top 20.
Well, they already traded in well as well, Sando.
Yeah, they've actually had a really good trade period as well. They brought in players like Hampton, Menzel and Seedsman. They had the local young man in Malira, who's from Central Districts, and Tom Doty, who played for Geelong Falcons this year, had a really good season. So not many picks in this year's draft, but a really good position for the Crows to be in.
Happy with what they collected there, Shifter?
I think just a couple of choices, though, so they didn't have much room to move, but I think they've picked wisely there. Both the boys are super athletic. They'll make the step up very comfortably.
All right, let's take a look at the Brisbane Lions and see how they fared. Of course, no surprise, Josh Shackey at number 2. Eric Hipwood was one of the academy kids you spoke of at the top of the show, Sandra, that you were very, very keen on. And Reece Matheson, who I think most good judges thought would be top 20, slipped all the way down to 39.
Peter Swab's in charge there, and he's had a couple of pretty impressive drafts the last few years, and this one in particular, and they've got the 2 academy boys in Hipwood and Keys in the mix as well.
That's right, they've got the 2 local academy boys, and each player there was from the National Academy program, Jono, so pat on the back for you too, mate.
Swabby was involved in it a couple of years ago, but he does select a lot out of that program.
Matheson's the one I like there. The pick late in the 30s is a fantastic, smart selection there for the Brisbane Lions.
Well, we know that Brendan Bolton has a big job ahead as coach of the Carlton Football Club, but when you get 4 first-round picks, it's not a bad way to start your reign, is it?
And they've gone for size there. You love that. Wiedering, we've talked enough about him. Harry Mackay, the left-footed key forward, and Charlie Curnow. He could end up Nate Fyfe out of this draft. He could end up the midfielder. He's a big-bodied boy, a great athlete as well. And then Jack Silvani, he's a steal at 53. December birth, Jack, but those 6 goals against WA showed his hand.
Pick 5 Victorians too, Carlton. Didn't go outside of their own state.
Well, they're not going to have to worry about the go-home factor there. Let's see, there's one of the Mackay boys. That's Harry Mackay, who ended up at Carlton. Is there a possibility, we talk about the twins, Harry and Ben Mackay, somewhere down the track, could they play on each other?
I hope so. With the banter we saw earlier tonight, I hope that matchup happens.
It'll just be a big punch on
it. Will.
Well, Harry's played his best footy this year as a forward, and Ben's played some great footy down back. So I think there's a big chance we see.
We thought the Selwood boys went hard on each other. I reckon these two will go just as hard.
Well, you're right. They attacked each other verbally. I'd love to see them go at it physically, but obviously very, very close. The twins, the Mackay boys. Let's go to the Collingwood Football Club and see how they fared at this year's draft.
Yeah, Ben Crocker at 65. He's a boy that could have an impact even next year. Sando mentioned the positions he can play, whether it's midfield, forward. He's even come across half-back. A boy about the 185 centimetre mark. A great user of the footy, strong overhead, and they'd be very surprised he was still there at 65.
Now, we also knew it was going to be an extremely important draft for the Essendon Football Club, as we just see Nathan Buckley recapping everything that unfolded tonight for the Collingwood Football Club, but the Bombers need to get themselves back on track on field. So they had a couple of early selections at 5 and 6, and I think everyone rated Darcy Parish and Aaron Francis extremely high, but they've invested heavily in this draft.
Yeah, good mix of defenders and forwards throughout the draft. Mitch Brown is one that they've got key forward there, but certainly impressed as a defender as well, and that's probably what maybe made him rise up the draft over the last 12 months, especially when he filled in for the Bombers. That could be John Worsfold talking to Mitch Brown right now, so he's talking to one of the new draftees. It could even be Yeston Eads, which was a great story as well.
They're actually really great phone calls to make as a senior coach. Obviously the player typically is already on the phone, all of his friends and family are calling him, but really special moment as a coach to call a player and welcome him to your football club.
Well, before we go ahead and have a look at the Fremantle Dockers, we're going to go back to the Carlton Football Club because Steve Silvani is the man charged with bringing the Blues back into being as a power, along with Brendan Bolton. And Digo's been able to track Sauce down.
Sauce, first year in charge, you've had a big draft, 4 in the top, 19. So it was a big, obviously, draft for yourself. But Jacob Wiedering, you nailed him, and you got a few other key positions which you'd be pretty happy with.
Yeah, look, I think we got a really good mix. To get obviously Jacob Wiedering with our first pick, then follow that up with Harry Mackay, key position forward, and then Charlie Curnow, and also David Cunningham, who obviously I think is going to be a very good midfielder, and then finish it off with Jack. I thought it was a nice draft.
Yeah, and you're speaking of Jack, Essendon a bit cheeky with their little bit in there.
They're always a little bit cheeky, the Bombers, but look, it all worked out well, and to really come away with 5, I think, quality players. It really does have a really nice future, and it looks bright for our club.
You've had some great experience in the recruiting field now, and Bolt's come to the club and looked like he just left you in charge there, sat back. It was obviously a bit of trust in that.
Yeah, look, I think everyone's transparent. You have a list management committee, and everything's out on the table, and we discuss it. And you prepare before you come here tonight. So, I think we were fairly relaxed tonight in terms of what went on, and we're really well prepared. And I think we got a really good result.
You interviewed a lot of the players and talked about the interviews. Harry Mackay would have been an absolute beauty. He's a character, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. He's got a little bit of cheekiness about him, and so is Ben, his brother. They're both really good lads. But look, we're really happy to have Harry. We're crying out for another key position forward, and obviously the key position players take a little bit longer. So I think the Carlton supporters need to be a little bit patient, but you'll see glimpses of what they're capable of throughout the year.
You've had a big night, Sauce. I'll let you go because you can go and enjoy it now. The work's done. Hand it over to Bolts.
Thanks very much.
And now the real hard work starts. Well, the Fremantle Dockers didn't have any early selections, but an important draft for them nonetheless.
Very important. Darcy Tucker is a nice player, probably play across half back, uses it well, loves getting in the contest as well. Harley Ballock we spoke a lot about throughout the coverage as well. Lead up, can play midfield, and has got great hands in a marking contest. And then you mentioned Shane Yarran, the 25-year-old who gets a chance at AFL level.
I reckon it's terrific. Kicked over 50 goals at waffle level, and at 25 years of age, he's going to play in the AFL as soon as next year.
Well, I think you take it as given that if you're not going to enter the draft until the mid-60s or late 50s and then into the mid-60s, that you're probably not going to get any well-known names, ones that everyone was raving about. But this is where you can really earn your quid as a recruiter. If you can pluck them down between 59 and 70 and produce a couple there that play good football for a number of years of the Cats, that'll be a job well done.
Well, they've taken a Tasmanian, a boy from Perth, a boy from Queensland, and a boy here from South Australia. So they've really spread their net wide, the Geelong Cats, in their 4 selections tonight.
And Ryan Gardner will grab your chances. He was a last-minute inclusion into that Allies team on the MCG Grand Final day for the All-Stars game. Played in deep defence. He's a 195 centimetre boy. So grab that chance, and Stephen Wells has seen enough in him to make him a draft choice.
The Gold Coast Suns, the next cab off the rank, and they need to have a good year in 2016. It's time for them to start playing finals as well.
Oh, it is. Calamachi, we've spoken about the mark he took on the MCG, one of the best I've ever seen. But look, what complements this is the fact of what they get back next year in terms of already made senior players that were injured throughout the year. Rodney Eden, his first year of coach of the Gold Coast, couldn't have been any worse with the disaster with the injuries that he had to work with. So Scotty Clayton over the last few years has picked a very strong list of Gold Coast. But you're right, it is time for them all to gel together, including the new recruits, set some high standards. They had off-field issues as well last year. Some high standards need to be set at the Gold Coast, and these young players need to come in and help build that from the bottom.
A lot of clubs were chasing GWS Academy boys, but they didn't get them because GWS answered every time, and they got some terrific young players
they
again.
Did, Jason. They matched every bid that came for their players today, but we talked about losing Treloar, but you bring in Jacob Hopper and Matthew Kennedy. They are ready-made AFL midfielders who come in and complement their already strong squad. Expect them to push right up the ladder again next year. I like Harrison Himmelberg. I was surprised the bid came in at 16, but GWS matched it. And then Matthew Flynn, really good young ruckman at pick 41. He was the first ruckman chosen tonight in the draft.
A couple of first-round selections for the Hawks. First time they've had those for a while, even though they were very much at the back end, but they were pretty keen to get Burton and Lovell into the mix.
Yeah, got a couple of goal kickers there in Burton and Hardwick. And Lovell's the prolific ball winner, averaged over 35 possessions a game in the national 18s, and he's got a bit of Diesel Williams about him. Very low to the ground, never falls over, gets it inside, gets it outside, and deserved his opportunity with the Hawks.
We know how to put pressure on kids, don't we? Some of the names that we are comparing some of these players to is extraordinary. Well, the Melbourne Football Club would love to have a couple of Greg Diesel Williams joining their list, but they look to have done very well as well.
Especially their first two. I like the first two. Clayton Oliver, his rise in the second half of the TAC Cup year, and Sam Wiedemann, the one that you love, Sando, with his ability. Look, he had his injuries throughout the year, yes, but there was enough there to say that this guy will be a future star and play a lot of football alongside Jesse Hogan.
Yeah, there's a little bit of pressure on Clayton Oliver now because a lot of clubs, a lot of people didn't rate him as the fourth best player in this year's draft, but I'm sure he's a great country kid. He'll train hard. You can see he's already trimmed down over some of the vision that we've seen of him earlier in the season. So really good draft by Melbourne. They've got a good young squad. Expect them to really rise up the ladder again next year.
North Melbourne's a club that would love to make the next step, which is playing in a grand final after a couple of preliminary finals. And I think they've got a bit of confidence in the players that they've picked up.
I actually really like these selections, Jason, from North Melbourne. We talked about the other twin, if you like, Ben Mackay, who's the key position back who can go forward. Ryan Clark runs AFL patterns already. He's extremely fit, gets across the ground really well. Mitchell Hibbard from Tasmania, pick 33. Excellent selection. Shoulder and knee injuries the last 2 years, but will come in and have an impact. And Corey Wagner, Brisbane didn't match the bid for him, so he becomes a North Melbourne player, but once again a player that I rate really highly, midfielder who can go outside as well.
Well, Port Adelaide didn't have an early pick, but the biggest roar of the night came when they weighed in for the first time. It was deafening inside the convention centre here in Adelaide for Riley Bonner, and then they followed up very quickly with Aidan Johnson.
Yeah, went at home with their choice on Bonner, the left-footed half-back that made All-Australian during the year with those performances. And then Aidan Johnson, one that couldn't get on the park too much this year, had the injuries, but just the little snippets you saw of him, you can see something fairly elite. He's explosive with his pace. He's a boy that can play as a medium forward or through the midfield, an Indigenous boy from country Victoria, and great to see him get his opportunity.
Well, the Tigers were keen to get on board with their early selection. They bid for a couple of academy picks. They got knocked back, but eventually they took Daniel Rioli.
Yeah, and what a selection. Look, you can just see him at the feet of Jack Riewoldt to start to learn his craft at Tigerland, and then he may, with some fitness, get up the ground a little bit further and have an impact there. The number one player at the National Combine this year, and Oleg Markov, his dad was a gun pole vaulter, and he comes in and he gets his chance as well. And look, it's time for him now to make his own mark and his own name.
We heard the screaming and we saw the tears of the White clan when Brandon White was taken at pick number 40 for the Saints, and he was accompanied by Jade Gresham and Bailey Rice, the father-son.
And Jade Gresham, one that we thought might have gone to North Melbourne because Boomer Harvey played with Jade's father at the Northern Knights, and if Jade ended up there, he would have played with the father and the son. But he's been a mentor to young Jade throughout the year. Boomer Harvey taught him a few tricks, and this boy's got plenty of tricks. He gets through the traffic. He's only medium-sized, about the 177 centimetre mark, but gee, he plays with great passion, ball-winning ability, hits the scoreboard as well, and a great choice for the Saints.
We're about to have a look at Sydney's selections, but before we do, we might hear from their coach. Ben Dixon has caught up with John Longmire.
John, an interesting draft. I mean, the format changed, the bidding process took a little bit of time. Callum Mills, the first one, was a nice, interesting little bid there.
Yeah, it was. I mean, we obviously really pleased with Callum. We've been really fortunate to see him close up. Chris Smith and Michael O'Loughlin have done a really good job with him over a number of years now, and he's a real competitor, and it's great to have him in the club.
You come to the draft and sometimes it's a need basis, or you just take the best talent available. Coming into tonight, what was Sydney looking for?
Well, after Callum, obviously, we'd lost a fair bit of speed and particularly some kicking ability out of the club since the end of the season. So Tyrone Leonardis really helps us with that. He plays with some real power. He's a very good kick, and so we're really pleased to get him with our second selection.
So Isaac Heaney, and we've got Callum Mills. You got a couple more in the academy. Smitty and Mickey just pushing up through. Would you expect the same next year?
No, well, that's the thing about the academy system. You're not really sure what you're going to have from year to year. At the moment, it's a bit hard to look at even that far out. But it's good. It's growing the talent pool, which is what we all should be happy with. It's actually getting more quality AFL players into the system.
How did you think of the new system today with the draft and how it was all played out?
Well, I'm sure there'll be a review of it, and look, it took some time, there's no doubt about that, but when you've got so many academy bids and father-son things going on, there's a bit going on.
Thanks for your time, John.
Thanks, mate.
It did take a little bit of time, and hopefully we can fine-tune that for future drafts. But Callum Mills, well, their hand was forced by Melbourne, who bid with pick number 3, so they had to go in hard there. And then Tyrone Leonardis and Jordan Dawson.
And Jordan Dawson bobbed up at the end of the year, played 5 senior games at Sturt after playing during the Nationals, got injured, only played the couple of games, but it was those games late in the year that obviously helped him get a chance at AFL level.
The West Coast Eagles played off in the grand final in 2015. They'll hope to go one better next year, and they'd love one of these players to develop very quickly.
Thomas Cole's the one there at 36, Sando, that we've had a bit to do with, as well as Luke Partington, but I like his composure as a defender. He never looks like he gets flustered in that position, and he uses it and is quite composed with his disposal coming out of the defensive end.
West Coast have used their late picks really well. There are 4 really good players that will come in and help their team.
And Brad Johnson, when he finally wiped away the tears, he's going to have a look at the selections for the Western Bulldogs. You did get excited,
Very good
John,
ones.
because
They
a
are.
couple of picks in the mid-20s. Josh Dunkley was the father-son that Sydney didn't match, and then you were keen on Kieran Collins as well.
Yeah, well, the first 2 are the ones that I probably know more than the last 2 there, Marcus Adams and Bailey Williams. But Josh Dunkley, his dad was a star with the Swans. And
I hope he's a better kick than his old man. His old man was a star defender and a great mark and a tough man, but a horrible kick. You'd hope that Josh kicks it a bit.
Josh kicks it very well, don't worry about that. And Kieran Collins is probably the perfect fit over the next few years when Dale Morris decides to hang up the boots.
All right, a final word on the draft from you, Shifter.
I love the fact that every state and territory had players taken. So the 8 states and territories, even the ACT, the Northern Territory, probably 4 out of Tassie, a great result. So players spread right around the nation getting the opportunity to join the AFL.
It has been a great evening, Sando.
Yeah, it has, and I think the big pressure tonight was on Carlton with 4 picks inside 19 and Essendon with 4 picks inside 25. I think both of those clubs nailed it tonight.
Brandon White, for me, that vision will go down in history. That'll be shown for the next few years in terms of just the raw emotion that comes with getting drafted into the AFL competition.
Gentlemen, thank you all for your contributions. Greatly appreciated. We trust you've enjoyed our coverage of the draft, but that brings the 2015 NAB AFL draft to a close. I tend to agree with Brad Johnson. For me, that stunning moment when the name Brandon White was called out, we got to just see exactly what it meant to the family and friends. We saw so much emotion unfold, but for now, from the Adelaide Convention Centre, that brings it to a close. Good luck to your team in 2016, and hopefully we'll see you again soon here on Fox.
This has been a Fox Footy production, part of the Fox Sports Network.